Corrado Malanga from the University of Pisa, and Filippo Biondi, involved in radar and remote sensing research with the University of Strathclyde, published peer-reviewed research in 2022 via MDPI entitled Synthetic Aperture Radar Doppler Tomography Reveals Details of Undiscovered High-Resolution Internal Structure of the Great Pyramid of Giza. Their research was conducted using SAR data, synthetic aperture radar, along with proprietary software developed by Filippo Biondi that transforms the radar signals into phononic information, which allows for the detection of millimetric vibrations. This cutting-edge technology is capable of revealing underground structures invisible to traditional methods, and revealed internal structures never seen before. Having established their expertise in using SAR to explore pyramid structures non-invasively, a recent press release on their current project was released last Saturday. This March 15th press release summarized the key findings in the team's research of the second largest pyramid of the Giza Plateau, known as the Khafre Pyramid, and what they found was astonishing. The analysis of dozens of tomographic SAR images obtained from different angles enabled the 3D reconstruction of inside the pyramid of Khafre and deep beneath the surface of the plateau. Near the base of the pyramid, 5 identical structures are seen, connected by geometric pathways. Inside each of these are 5 horizontal levels and a sloping roof. Below these 5 structures are 8 cylindrical structures, which appear to be vertical wells, hollow inside, and surrounded by descending spiral pathways. These 8 vertically aligned cylindrical structures, arranged in 2 parallel rows from north to south, descend to a depth of 648 meters, where they all merge into 2 large cubic structures, measuring approximately 80 meters per side. The entire structure extends approximately 2 kilometers beneath the surface and extends beneath all 3 pyramids of the Giza Plateau complex. Mainstream Egyptology tells us that the Giza pyramids were tombs for pharaohs Khufu, Khafre, and Menkaure, and that they were built around 2500 BC using ramps, sledges, and levers. But the redundant mathematics in their construction, which include pi, the golden ratio, and the speed of light, along with the testimony of today's expert architects, suggests that the official story does not hold up. The massive underground structure revealed by the recent SAR data shows what appears to be a mechanical or functional system, and this has been hypothesized in the past. Nikola Tesla believed that the pyramids could harness Earth's natural frequencies. This arguably inspired his experiments in wireless energy transmission and scalar waves. In the Giza power plant, Christopher Dunn argued that the Great Pyramid was a power-generating machine using resonant and acoustic forces to convert mechanical stress into electricity. In the Giza Death Star, Joseph Farrell proposed that the Great Pyramid of Giza was a weapon of mass destruction using a type of physics that he calls paleophysics to focus energy as a scalar weapon. The cylindrical wells could be conduits for energy or sound waves, and the cubic structures might serve as energy storage or stabilization units, akin to components in a large-scale weapon or generator. And the detection of vibrations in the pyramid's internal structures reflects all of these ideas. The Khafre project hopes to plan an excavation in order to discover more about this underground structure, but history shows that this will be very difficult to get approval for. Greg Reese reporting.
All right, hello and welcome. I've been running around like crazy trying to get everything ready for tonight. It's one of those days. Hope you guys are doing well. It is Doug Diamond. This is the Diamond Report Live on 3/23/25. And yeah, I'm glad you guys have made it. Looks like we have some folks in chat, and we'll take a look at the news tonight. Yeah, we're going to look at a number of things, including the whole pyramid thing, and I'm sure many of you guys already knew about that. It was kind of one of the big stories this week for sure. So, we'll look at that a little bit closer as well. I thought that was a really good kind of background as to what all of this is about that Greg Reese put together. So kudos to him. I'm glad he did that. And this is something that I've been interested in for a long time. I'm sure many of you guys are as well. And I would say further confirms the whole biblical narrative, really, if you look at it in those terms. So anyway, let's take a look at the news and let's see what's going on in this wacky world of ours right now. There's certainly a lot and lots of calls for war, unfortunately. And you'll see that in Hal Turner's reporting here on his website, HalTurnerRadioshow.com. First article that he has here says U.S.-Ukraine talks have not gone well. Shocker, I know. So this guy is Palisa, P-A-L-I-S-A, deputy head of Zelensky's office. He sort of looks like a Zelensky flunky, doesn't he? He has the same taste in clothes. Let's just put it that way. Ukraine's talks with the U.S. ended in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. They did not go well at all. The deputy head of Zelensky's office, this guy, refused to comment on the progress of the negotiations. He only said that the Ukrainian delegation would not meet with the Russian delegation in Riyadh. So it sounds like it really went well, doesn't it? Meanwhile, Zelensky himself is making the rounds on social media. He seems to be saying all the wrong things, which he's known to do for sure. This tweet here says, Zelensky will not allow UN peacekeepers on the ground in Ukraine, insisting that NATO membership and NATO boots on the ground is the only way forward. And of course, Putin has said that there's no possible way they're going to allow Ukraine into NATO. Period. End of story. So, no to UN peacekeepers and yes to NATO boots on the ground, Zelensky says. This is precisely exactly what to say if he wants the war to continue. So that is one of Hal's stories on his site. Poland Ministry of Interior alerts citizens to prepare for war is another one on his site. In Poland, the Ministry of the Interior urges citizens to stock up for 3 days of autonomous survival. Let's be prepared within our means for at least 3 days of survival without assistance from state structures. Let's stock up on water, essential medicines, hygiene products, food, and light sources that do not rely on the electrical grid. Let's also prepare charged power banks, said the Deputy Minister of the Interior. He also recommended having transistor radios, which at times may be the only way to receive information. So what exactly is the minister preparing the people for? War. War with Russia. So again, they want their war one way or another, don't they? No matter who's president of the United States, it just doesn't matter. They just continue on. Lithuania and Poland begin mining their borders against Russia. That doesn't mean searching for gold, no. Lithuania joins Poland in mining the border with Russia, meaning Kaliningrad and Belarus. The plan includes multiple layers of fortifications featuring anti-personnel and anti-tank mines. That type of mine. And Hal's remark here says these European governments seem to have literally lost their minds. Yeah, and found some mines. German propaganda begins. Teen magazine in Germany. Would you fight for Germany? There's the cover. The German government has commenced the propaganda to begin citing and enticing and inducing and shaming and guilting young people to join the German army to, quote, fight Russia. The German magazine Der Neue Stern, English for The New Star, calls on young Germans to prepare for war with Russia and asks, would you go to war for Germany? None of us wants war, but we must prepare for it now. Which, of course, is a total falsification, isn't it? Here's the full magazine cover in the original German language. Got the young boy with the military garb on one side and non on the other. Here's the same magazine cover with the machine-translated English. New Star. Would you fight for Germany? And it says this insanity only ends one way. Meanwhile, in Berlin, German President Steinmeier has just signed off on increasing the national debt to allow the rapid militarization of Germany. So We've seen parts 1 and 2 of this film before. We know how it ends. I'm convinced part 3 will be no different from the last time. I suspect the Russians will once again storm Berlin and put an end to this monster that's now being loosed upon Europe again through their little Nazi proxy Ukraine. Yeah, so, we'll see. I don't know if it'll go that far, but Hal, of course, seems to think it will. Who knows? But anyway, yeah, it looks like the EU and Europe in general is, I guess, attempting to prepare for war with Russia. So, not looking too good there, is it? Interesting to get Hal's perspective, I think. And then, of course, the JFK files came out, or at least, some semblance of the JFK files came out. This NeedToKnow.news article, Candace Owens, the conspiracy theorists were right about JFK and the Israeli ties to his assassination. Trump released over 60,000 documents, I thought it was 80,000, related to the assassination of JFK, who was killed in Dallas on November 22, 1963. Several researchers provide details about the shooting that links Israel to the murder, of course. According to some critics, a number of documents have been withheld. Yes, ones that are key documents that no one is supposed to see. And of course, much of the documentation that was put out was, from what I gather, mostly just confirming the official narrative versus new information. It says short video documents Israeli Prime Minister Ben David Gurion insisting that Israel needed nuclear weapons to survive. He'd hid Israel's nuclear capabilities at Dimona from JFK and his inspectors. And it says Ben Gurion resigned the day after he received a letter from JFK advising him that U.S. commitment to and support of Israel could be seriously jeopardized over the matter. The Apollo affair, or NUMEC affair, was in 1965. It was an incident in which a U.S. company called NUMEC in Pennsylvania was investigated for losing 200 to 600 pounds of highly enriched uranium, with suspicions that it had gone to Israel's nuclear weapons program. Then, of course, there's an article here about that. It's actually just a Wikipedia link. JFK demanded that the American Zionist Council register as a foreign agent. The Jewish lobby refused. The American Zionist Council later rebranded itself AIPAC. And of course, you know them as the folks that control most of the U.S. Congress, about 99.9% of it. So anyway, and then it mentions that the American Zionist Council later rebranded itself as AIPAC, and it did so after JFK died. AIPAC never registered as a foreign agent, and it has massive influence over the U.S. Congress to this day, which is what I just said. After Kennedy died, the U.S. went off of the silver standard, and our coins were changed. LBJ led the U.S. into the Vietnam War, and the Hart-Celler Act opened up immigrations to the U.S. MLK was also assassinated, and LBJ's war on poverty broke up black homes. So they got to do everything they wanted once they got JFK out of the way, which, of course, we all know this, but, it's interesting to see that at least some of this information has come out officially. Not that it really matters. Most of us already kind of figured out what was going on a long time ago. CIA requested that any mention of Israel be redacted in the JFK files. So, yeah. And I've got another article on that pulled up as well. So that is on NeedToKnow.news. And then this one is to Israel bombs Gaza, ends ceasefire. Hundreds of Palestinians killed. U.S. supplies 2,000-pound bombs to Israel. I think I mentioned that last week. Israel resumed their large-scale bombing of Gaza on Monday after rearming with weapons sent by the Trump administration as part of a, quote, peace deal. The Trump administration approved $12 billion in arms deals for Israel since taking office and shipped Israel 1,800 Mk-84 bombs that were held up by the Biden administration because Israel was dropping them on civilians in areas that they had designated as safe zones. White House Press Secretary Leavitt said that the Trump administration was consulted by the Israelis on their attacks in Gaza on Monday. Over 400 Palestinian civilians, including children, have been killed this week. Netanyahu's Gaza policy and American support for it are a prescription for endless war and further unrest. Israel is positioning itself for military action on multiple fronts, including the West Bank, Lebanon, Syria, Yemen, and Iran. Israel's decision to re-enter Gaza or a further decision to escalate on any of these other fronts directly impact the United States. Washington has locked itself into a cycle of policies contrary to American interests. Yeah. So, we will see what happens. It's not looking too good, though. He's supporting anything and everything that Israel wants. He meaning Donald John Trump. So, as we all know, Israel first. Not really America first, is it? Huge structures discovered over 1.5 miles below the Great Pyramid. Yeah, this is more of that very story that we started out with tonight. Jay Anderson, Open Search Intelligence researcher and founder of Project Unity, said this changes everything. A new device with 3D tomographic imagery was used to explore the internal structure and subsurface of the Great Pyramid of Giza. 8 vertical cylindrical structures extended 648 meters below the pyramid. The cylinders have spiral pathways and may be wells. The 2 bases under the cylinders, massive cubic blocks, extend down a staggering 2 kilometers, which is 1.6 miles. The sophisticated engineering of these structures obliterates the dynastic Egyptian model, which means the Egyptians couldn't have built it, right? Anderson said that the Egyptian civilization narrative that we have been taught is impossible. The structures cover the entire Giza plateau with interconnected structures, not only underneath the Great Pyramid, but also those of the Khafra and Menkaure. He said it provides evidence of a pre-flood civilization that we can scarcely comprehend. Yeah, and I would fully concur with that the world prior to Adam and Eve was a very interesting one, apparently, because there were 2 floods. There was the flood of Noah, but there was a flood before that as well. And apparently that had wiped out a civilization that was non-human, possibly angelic. That's what many people think. And it would have taken beings like that to build something like this so far down into the earth. And I'm a pretty big proponent of the hollow earth idea. And I know many of you guys out there are flat earthers. I personally think, this is my opinion, I have no way to prove it, but I think that the flat earth narrative is there to cover up the true story, which is hollow earth. Because to me, hollow earth is far more important than flat earth, if it makes sense. Kathy says, pyramids built with fallen angel technology. Yep, and Nephilim giant labor. Yes, that's right. The structures that were built there, the various beings that were able to do that sort of construction is the only real explanation, in my opinion, and it does fit the biblical narrative. It's something Tim Alberino has been talking about for a long, long time. I fully expect that he will put out probably quite a bit of information as well about this whole thing with Egypt and the pyramids and what's been found discovered under the Great Pyramid there. So I think it would be something to keep an eye on for sure. I think it further proves the biblical narrative. I think it further proves that there were civilizations for sure before humanity, before Adam and Eve were even around, and that this would help to prove that point. So True Nature says, that's crazy, Doug. 1.6 miles is taller than the tallest building in the world. Yeah, that's right, it is. Taller than the, whatever it is, the tall building in UAE, right? In United Arab Emirates, taller than that building. So that's saying quite a bit. That's pretty amazing. And, I've mentioned the Bosnian pyramids before as well. We're going to take a look at that just a little bit. I'll show you a picture or two. So there were pyramids all over the place, all over the globe, and of course they're on ley lines, which are, natural power sources, and that's all important as well. So were pyramids somehow used as weapons? I don't know. Were they somehow used in conjunction with the same pyramids that were found on Mars? Very possible. Maybe there's some sort of interconnection between the two. And in fact, I've heard that there are connections between the pyramids on Mars and the pyramids on Earth. So it's pretty amazing. I've seen I've never seen pyramids, in person, but I have seen some of the incredible structures in Peru. I did a trip to Peru back in 2017, and we were able to see not only at Machu Picchu, but Sacsayhuaman and Ollantaytambo and several other places there that have just these incredible structures that when you see them and you're there and you can touch them with your hands, you're just in awe. And you realize that there's no way, even with the technology and the machinery that we have today, that we could even build anything like that. So there's just no other explanation to me other than supernatural. To me, that is the explanation. So anyway, again, we'll look at this a little bit closer as we move on tonight. It's got a couple other articles pulled up on that. All right, so just a few more articles on needtoknow.news. Trump executive order dismantles the Department of Education. Says Linda McMahon, the head of the Department of Education, explained that the department will continue to support K-12 students with special needs, and college student borrowers and others while working with the states to give them control over education. So Department of Education is closed. So that all happened this last week. So yeah, and I've got the short little video clip of him signing that executive order. We'll look at that too when we get there. Musk says 14 magic money computers in the federal government make money out of thin air. Where have you heard that before? Yep, that's right. From this very person, G. Edward Griffin, who runs this website, makes money out of thin air. The Creature from Jekyll Island was his famous book. In this video, Elon Musk discusses government waste and fraud. He revealed that money is paid to nonprofits and there is no audit. For example, Democrat operative Stacey Abrams received payouts totaling $1.9 billion for appliances. Musk explained that there are 14 magic money computers kept by the Treasury Department, the State Department, HHS, Health and Human Services, and the Department of Defense that have been discovered and simply just send money out of nothing. Wouldn't you like to have one of those? The NGOs that are being funded are almost all left-wing NGOs, of course. Musk said that the crux of the matter is fraudulent payments for entitlements to illegal aliens, everything from Social Security, Medicare, unemployment, disability, and Small Business Administration loans. Musk estimated that up to $200 billion has been spent. Democrats have been able to attract and retain vast numbers of illegal immigrants and buy voters with entitlements. 10 to 20 million illegals have been brought in, which I think it's more like 40, and are beholden to the Democrats. It is an election strategy. Unless illegals are deported, it is a matter of time before the swing states can turn blue, and the U.S. becomes a socialist state, including the President, Congress, and Supreme Court. So anyway, that is more about the magic money computers. Absolute bombshell from Elon Musk on the latest episode of Verdict, which I guess is Ted Cruz's show. He reveals that there are 14 magic money computers in the federal government that sends money out of nothing. And then here's the embedded podcast, I guess, here with Ted Cruz. I did not watch that, but it looks pretty interesting. Yeah. Anyway, and then violent leftists vandalize and destroy private-owned Tesla cars across the country. That's been another one of the huge stories this week. Just Tesla dealerships and individual owners just under fire from the crazies on the left. Across the country, Tesla showrooms, vehicle lots, charging stations, and privately owned cars have been targeted for vandalism and destruction by the leftists who oppose Elon Musk since he aligned with President Trump. Yeah, then started with the work with Doge. Musk briefly addressed the vandalism during an appearance on Cruz's podcast, saying that at least some of it is organized and paid for by left-wing organizations in America, funded by left-wing billionaires, essentially. He said that Act Blue and the Arabella Dark Money Network were involved. Arabella is tied to Bill Gates, of course. Trump has said that Tesla vandalism amounts to domestic terror, and Trump has threatened retribution, warning that those who target the company are going to go through Hades. So anyway, yeah, it's getting ugly out there for sure. Cybertrucks set ablaze, bullets and Molotov cocktails aimed at Tesla showrooms. Attacks on property carrying the logo of Musk's electric car company are cropping up across the U.S. and overseas. While no injuries have been reported, Tesla showrooms, vehicle lots, charging stations, and privately owned cars have been targeted. Yes, well, it's just a mostly peaceful protest, isn't it? Where have we heard that before? Anyway, yeah, we'll see where that goes, but my guess is the Democrats want their civil war. This is just stage one of that process. My guess is it's going to continue, probably get worse over the course of the spring and summer. We'll see. And then this is what we mentioned a little bit ago. Stacey Abrams' linked group got $2 billion in $20 billion on the EPA scheme to fund leftists. EPA administrators Lee Zeldin recently revealed that the Biden-era EPA parked $20 billion at an outside bank, and it was then dispersed in grants to leftist groups. The Abrams-linked Power Forward Communities received $2 billion as a part of these grants. However, the organization reported just $100 in total revenue after their founding in late 2023. So they reported $100, but they got $2 billion. Mm-hmm. However, the organization reported just $100 in revenue, and Stacey Abrams told MSNBC that the Biden EPA gave her $2 billion to buy people new home appliances to reduce their electric bills. Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course they did, and they kept it all themselves. That's what they did. So that is an article on needtoknow.news. One more from there. Thought this one was pretty interesting. You guys, many of you guys will be able to identify with this one. LA bans rent payments until July 2026. Why would that be, do you suppose? Well, it's the LA fires. The LA fires burned down 12,000 structures. I think it was more than that even. And 150,000 people were displaced. The LA County Board of Supervisors signed into law a moratorium on evictions for tenants affected by the fires who claim to have lost at least 10% of their income. Just 10%. That's all. Rent is no longer due until July 31st, 2026. So well over a year from now. Tenants can self-certify that their financial hardship. In 2020, during the LA County Supervisors extended the eviction ban for a whopping 3 years. Renters accumulated over $1 billion in back due rent, and most of it was owed to mom and pop landlords who are still struggling to this day. Many individuals had to sell their properties. Corporation and big investors picked up the homes for a fraction of the value. Yeah, Reed, BlackRock, and others. The ban on evictions is likely to lead to more individual landlords being shaken out of the market. So I thought that was a pretty interesting story. Let's watch just a couple minutes of this short video clip. I didn't know if you guys had heard about this at all. This is all new news to me as of earlier today. So let's see what this says.
In January 2025, Los Angeles suffered one of its most catastrophic disasters in history. Over 16,000 homes destroyed and tens of thousands of Angelenos displaced.
Street after street full of houses have been reduced to smoldering ash.
With some 16,000 buildings destroyed, the cost of recovery could break records.
Dozens of people had to abandon their cars in traffic jams and flee on foot as the flames bore down.
And billions on top of billions of dollars in damages. Entire communities were completely wiped out. And for many, the financial impact is just the beginning.
All right, dude. Yeah, let's get out of here.
Entire neighborhoods still burning. There's not a single house left standing here.
And now in response, LA County has just signed into law a new eviction moratorium. If you live inside of LA and claim to have lost at least 10% of your income, rent is no longer due. In fact, it's not due until July of 2026.
The legislation calls for a moratorium on evictions for tenants affected by the fires.
Does this remind you of anything you've ever seen before? Perhaps in 2020, that lasted for over 3 years.
The LA County Board of Supervisors is extending pandemic tenant protections for 2 more months.
Homeowners and landlords saying that they're going broke and entering foreclosure.
After 3 years, certain programs will expire.
During that period, LA renters accumulated north of $1 billion in back due rent, most of which owed to mom and pop landlords who are still struggling to this day.
Many landlords say it will take them years to recover from their economic loss.
On this stretch of street off of Exposition Boulevard is lined with triplexes. I'm told that most of them are owned by small mom and pop landlords.
I don't know why people think that we have so much money. I scraped to get this building.
When evictions expired, Mayor Karen Bass brought forward more tenant protections and even declared a homelessness emergency. And numerous small mom and pop landlords that simply didn't have the financial capacity to hold on any longer had no choice but to sell. Many of them selling during the moratoriums for a lot less than what they should have gotten. This big shift allowed large corporations and bigger investors to step in and scoop up deals for a fraction of their true value.
Experts say that many of the properties bought up by institutional groups were previously owned by people who were destabilized in recent recessions.
This helped leading further rent increases and increased cost of living. With a new eviction moratorium in place, many question if Los Angeles is going to repeat the inevitable. Mom and pop landlords punished, wealthy investors and corporations to buy their properties for discounted prices. Will this policy prove to be a relief for tenants, or is this a disaster for tenants in the long term with some short-term pain to small mom and pop property owners throughout Los Angeles County?
So, wow, how about that? And then the other crazy thing here, though, is that you can declare yourself, you can self-certify your own financial hardship. So you just say, yeah, I'm having a hard time. That's all you have to do to qualify. And it says it's for people who have lost at least 10% of their income, but I would assume that's just a guideline. If you can self-certify, you don't have to prove anything to anybody. So then your landlord says, okay, well, I guess you get free rent then until July 2026. Of course, they don't want to do that, but that's what the LA County Board of Supervisors has told them that they have to do. So anyway, I just thought that was pretty wild. And, they're starting all over again, really, with the whole COVID thing, except it's with the fires in LA. Very strange. It's a crazy world. All right, technocracy.news. Latest 3 articles, 3.5 trillion GPUs on Mars AI data center. So, of course, this one is a Musk story. Elon Musk wants to colonize Mars with 1 million people. Are you going? And organize it into a full-blown technocracy. If Brian Wang can calculate the potential capacity of 3.5 trillion GPUs, you can be sure that Musk has been there, done that. Such a cluster would be without peer on Earth, but would be enough to capture and control all the data in the solar system and beyond. 3.5 trillion GPUs. Sounds about right. Anyway, how is Elon Musk proposing that we get these million people from Earth to Mars, or will they just be grown in a lab? That's what I would think. They would be digitally printed. They would be 3D printed in a lab, perhaps. Who knows? I don't know. I'm just saying, maybe that's what's in store for these poor people who try and make this trek somehow. They're not going to get in a spaceship and fly to Mars. All right, so that's one of the articles on here. And then the stablecoin trap, the backdoor to total financial control. In accounting, the purpose of a ledger is to track all financial activity in your company: assets, liabilities, purchases, sales, income, and expenses. The government has already created a digital ledger for each citizen to digitalize everything in their life. Everything. The battle isn't about stopping a future CBDC. It's about recognizing the financial surveillance system that already exists. Your financial sovereignty is under attack already, and the last off-ramps are disappearing. So that's one of the other articles on technocracy.news. And then one more. Can AI therapists solve your mental health problems? Is your shrink in your pocket. Apparently so. When, where, and how humans fail you, AI is there to offer support to straighten things out. Isn't that nice? The bonding process must first convince you that the AI is human and trustworthy. When a totally realistic human avatar appears to converse with you in a natural language, fakes empathy, and tells you that you are loved, etc., most people will spill their guts. What could possibly go wrong? Hence the burgeoning beginnings here of human and machine relationships is what it sounds like to me, just looking at it on the surface here. So that's another article here on the homepage of technocracy.news at the moment. And then Liberty Beacon articles, got a few of those pulled up tonight as well. Trump revokes the security clearances of more than 15 top Democrats. Hillary's real excited about that. Former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, former VP Kamala Harris, former Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, and former National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan and Biden's entire family were among those revoked. President Trump on Friday revoked the security clearances of more than 15 top Democrats. And then it lists them here, including Letitia James, Alvin Bragg, Liz Cheney, Adam Kinzinger, and others. He says, I have determined that it is no longer in the national interest for the following individuals to access classified information, quote unquote. Wow. Good for him. So that's a good move. You know, Trump does make a lot of boneheaded moves and does a lot of dumb things, but that was a pretty good one, I think. I mean, cutting off Hillary Clinton, that's a good plan in anyone's book, I think. Except for maybe Hillary. Hegseth eliminates $580 million on wasteful woke spending. Top on the list was the Defense Civilian Human Resources Management System, the DCHRMS. Who could remember all of those letters? Software development program and associated active contracts at the Defense Human Resources Activity. In an ongoing effort to identify and cut wasteful spending at the U.S. Department of Defense, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said in the latest round of cuts total more than $580 million. In the last few weeks, working with the U.S. Department of Government Efficiency, the DoD has eliminated more than $800 million in programs, contracts, and grants that do not match the priorities of this president or this department, Hegseth said. In other words, they are not a good use of taxpayer dollars. Ultimately, that's who funds us, and we owe you transparency and making sure we're using it well. So how about that? Yeah, the government loves the alphabet, it seems. Yes, they do. Only letters that help them, though. Yeah, so Pete Hegseth, obviously, he's a Elon Musk flunky, and if people aren't already boycotting Pete Hegseth and whatever vehicle he's driving, they probably will do that next. So they'll go burn his car or his minivan or whatever it is. They'll go burn that up next to protest him, because that's obviously the thing you do when you don't like someone. You just burn their car. All right, so that is a Liberty Beacon article, and then this one as well, speaking of cars, Rolls-Royce to shift production to the United States. How about that? Going to buy a Rolls? British engineering giant Rolls-Royce is reportedly preparing to increase manufacturing production in the U.S. to avoid tariffs imposed by Trump. I think they make other things too, don't they? Not just cars. Seems like they make like airplane engines and things like that. Probably says in here. London's Daily Telegraph reported that Rolls-Royce is currently drafting contingency plans to avoid the impact of trade restrictions imposed by the Trump administration. The plans are said to include ramping up production in America and hiring more workers in the U.S. According to the report, the aerospace and defense company, it's both, is considering shifting production from countries impacted by the trade war, such as China, Canada, and Mexico, where it currently has around 6,000 workers. So they're going to move that to the U.S. Additionally, Rolls is also considering potentially shifting production from the UK and Europe should tariffs threaten its manufacturing sites in the regions. So yeah, Trump was saying if you build here, then the tariffs won't apply to your company. That's what he's said in the past. You don't say. Hyundai Motors and Kia aim to boost American automobile production to avoid Trump's planned 25% auto tariff. Yeah, that will pretty much kill Hyundai and Kia sales, I would think, or certainly reduce it a lot. All right, and then Trump institutes military draft for everyone with Ukrainian flag in their Facebook profile. I saw this and I'm like, oh man, if only that were true. Let me read that again. Trump institutes the military draft for everyone with the Ukrainian flag in their Facebook profile. That is hilarious. Of course, it's a Babylon Bee article, but let's see what actually they're talking about here in this article. President Trump announced this week that he will be instituting a mandatory military draft for any American who puts the little yellow and blue Ukrainian flag in their Facebook bio. These people, they want to fight, Trump told members of the press on Monday. They put that little flag in their profiles, and I know they really want to get out there and die for Ukraine. Really brave and tremendous people. Not me, though. I'm not a flag person. No flags in my bio. Trump made the announcement after a massive influx of white liberal women changed their Facebook profile pics from photos of them at the beach with a few of their besties to an image of the Ukrainian flag. These upper middle class Pilates ladies are perfect for the front lines, Trump said. They want to fight. Look how eager they are. They want to go to Ukraine. Such nasty women. Putin won't know what hit him. Too funny. To avoid being drafted, those who posted flags in their bios said they were unaware that there was a war going on in Ukraine, and they thought the little yellow and blue squares were some sort of Black Lives Matter or trans thing. So they didn't actually know there was a war going on. Pretty funny. Of course, that is a Babylon Bee story, and not true at all. But I just thought it was pretty funny because it's posted like it was true on this site, on the Liberty Beacon. All right, and then this was another huge story this week. I don't know if you guys knew about this, but about swatting. We mentioned swatting last week, actually, because a couple of the InfoWars guys had gotten swatted right after Jamie White was shot and killed, which is another one of their reporters. Well, this is Owen Schroyer from InfoWars, conservative reporter who was swatted, has a big update on what's really going on. That's him being led out of his house in Austin, Texas, and having guns pointed at him with the little lasers and everything. As many of you know, the right is under siege. Fire bombings and threats against Tesla and Doge, to the relentless swatting of conservative influencers. Being a Trump supporter in America is dangerous and has been for nearly a decade, thanks to the violent, unhinged left. Yeah, and I don't know if it's just Trump supporters. I think it's just anybody that goes against the official leftist narrative, from what I gather. I don't know. And that says here, and what is truly terrifying, the left actually thinks that they are the good guys. We've been covering the swatting crisis and Kash Patel's ominous warning. We had high hopes, but those have been completely dashed. Clearly, warnings are not cutting it. We need action, Mr. Patel. And then he did tweet this a few days back now. Says, I want to address the alarming rise in swatting incidents targeting media figures. The FBI is aware of this dangerous trend, and my team and I are already taking action to investigate and hold those responsible accountable. So it needs to be a little bit more action here than just a tweet, if you ask me. Anyway, it says one of the latest victims of this deadly left-wing terrorism is InfoWars reporter Owen Schroyer. He was swatted at his home, and the entire ordeal was caught on his security cameras. The footage is shocking and just shows how life-threatening these false calls are, not only for the homeowners, but for the police as well. InfoWars host Schroyer said he was the victim of a swatting incident, which heavily armed police raided his home after receiving a false report of a shooting. Schroyer, a conservative commentator, blamed the Democrat Party and its supporters for orchestrating the ordeal, calling it part of a broader pattern of political intimidation. In a video posted on X, Schroyer recounted the incident, saying about a dozen officers had arrived at his home with weapons drawn. He was handcuffed and forced to crawl on the ground while officers searched his residence. Yeah, of course, with no warrant or anything else. A couple of the police officers knew who he was. They still had to do their job. The fake police report was filed so that it was saying that I had shot someone in my house. That's obviously not true. I'm here alone. I live alone. Yeah, he knew right away he was being swatted, and he was expecting to be swatted when it all happened. So, very interesting, huh? So, yeah, then they send you pizzas afterwards. So that's the next thing. Many swatted conservatives have also received mysterious pizzas right before the police show up. I think sometimes it's after as well. When Owen tracked down the Papa John's that delivered his, he found something eerie. It's located at the exact same site where InfoWars reporter Jamie White was murdered recently. Coincidence? We'll let you decide. Yeah, very, very strange. Anyway, this whole ordeal with swatting is out of control. But I don't know. I haven't heard quite as much about it in the last few days, so hopefully it's subsided a little bit. But yeah, just know that it is going on. If you're an outspoken conservative commentator type person, there's a good chance you could get swatted. So just be aware. And of course, it's worse in blue cities than anywhere else. So just so you know. And then this article, I thought this one was worth taking a look at. Elon's astronaut rescue, the people from space, quote unquote. Well, it says the real story is light years worse, and we've got receipts. Musk and his team have arrived to kick off the first leg of the rescue mission, saving the astronauts that NASA, Boeing, and Biden had left stranded in outer space. More on that in a minute. Before we get to SpaceX's epic and historic rescue, let's take a little moonwalk backwards and see how NASA went from a once highly respected institution to the bloated, woke joke that it is today. More focused on hiring minorities and launching gay astronauts into space than on quality, safety, or technological advancements. So, of course, we know that's what NASA's really about. And it is never a straight answer, of course. So there's all this stuff about NASA. A few years ago, NASA torched $40 billion, and we still can't get back to the moon. And, of course, there's a lot of people that believe we actually went to the moon the first time, which I am not in that camp, as you most likely know. But that's what part of this article is about. And then it says, NASA, decrepit, woke, and desperate, is 14 years late on the Hubble replacement. And it says, thankfully, Elon Musk jumped into the space race and started making real waves. He's fueled by innovation, not woke nonsense. Elon's team just kicked off the rescue mission to save the astronauts that Biden left stranded. It was supposed to be a one-week trip. Instead, they've been stuck there for 9 long months, thanks in part to Boeing, yet another woke DEI-driven company circling the drain. Eventually, as this horrific outer space mess unfolded, even NASA had to throw in the towel and toss Boeing under the bus. NASA has become a laughingstock. The once highly respected organization has tumbled off of its pedestal. I'm not sure if it was ever on one, if you ask me. But anyway, lots to be said here about this whole SpaceX rescue and what happened. I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to it, honestly, but some of you guys had messaged me about it, and I just thought I would mention it. And speaking of Biden's cold-hearted treatment of these astronauts, Musk dropped a bombshell on Joe Rogan's show, revealing the real reason that his team left them stranded in space was because of their politics. How about that? He says politics drove the Biden administration to abandon 2 astronauts in space. During a Friday appearance on Rogan's podcast, Musk said that Biden rejected his offer to bring Sunita Williams and Barry Wilmore home early because it would have made Donald Trump, quote, look good. So there you go. Musk backed Trump during the 2024 campaign and appeared at several MAGA rallies. So yeah, they didn't want to help Musk out, so they left the astronauts stranded in space, according to what Elon said. So who knows? I don't know that I buy any of that stuff. I do think that orbiting the planet, in low gravity or whatever, low space orbit, I do think that's possible, but going beyond that is not really possible with the technology that we have, unless you consider that there may be such things as jump rooms, which would be interdimensional. I do think those, or some facsimile of that, may exist. Heard reports on that from different people, but not to get into that so much. But I don't think that space travel, other than getting into low Earth orbit, is really even a possibility. Low Earth orbit, perhaps, yes. I do think that that's very possible, but beyond that, I don't know. let's just say I'm very dubious about the whole thing. Anyway, so that was that on the Elon rescue there. Random guy, I don't think he's really random, but this says random guy finds his name on ActBlue's donor list 9 times, but he never gave them a cent. We talked about ActBlue last week, which of course is the Democrat machine money laundering mechanism that they have in place. It says, thanks to Doge, we now know something very, very shady is happening with Democrat political donations. Latest clue didn't actually come from any investigative journalist or even Doge. It came from some random guy on X who just happens to see his own name on a list of Kansas political donors. But there's just one problem. He's never donated to a campaign in his life, and he doesn't even live in Kansas. Matt Von Swall. Now, he's a guy that I've shown some of his videos before on this show. It's been a while, but he lives in the North Carolina area that got pummeled by the hurricane. And so he's done a lot of tweeting really over the last few months about that whole predicament. Anyway, this says Matt Von Swall, a former nuclear scientist for the Department of Energy and random X user who lives in North Carolina, had his mind blown when a Doge investigation discovered that at least 9 separate $2 donations, $2, were made in his name and his address to Democrat candidates in Kansas. Remember, he doesn't live in Kansas. But what makes this even stranger is the occupation field that's attached to these donations was filled in with pure gibberish, almost like someone had just been hammering random keys to fill in required fields as quickly as possible. Yeah, because they thought no one would ever look at it. So what exactly is going on here? A Doge team member who goes by the handle Data Republican and who has been relentlessly harassed by the left is the one who unearthed the donation records leading to this bizarre discovery. Now we have serious questions on our hands. Was this just some sort of wild fluke, or is this just the tip of the iceberg with a massive political donation fraud scheme that has been keeping the Dems' coffers overflowing and giving them wildly unfair advantages in elections? Question mark. In other words, massive cheating scheme. Yeah, I would vote for that's probably what's going on, wouldn't you? Anyway, here's his name, and then I guess his address is blacked out here. And that all these $2 donations. This is kind of like the you've seen this when you've had your credit card numbers compromised, and you get these little charges on your card before they slam it with a much larger charge. Like you'll get a few cents here, or $1 or $2 from a gas station or something like that on your credit card, and then wham, they'll hit you with $1,000 from something else. Well, this is kind of like that. I don't think that a big donation ever came through here, but the you can see here where the $2 donations 9 times is listed, and then occupation just says JEKAJND in all of these, several of these fields. So obviously they just typed in some random letters there. It says, furthermore, all these donations were made to candidates in Kansas, and he lives in North Carolina. He says, I never set foot in Kansas in his life. So anyway, he is wondering what's going on, as are so many people. But of course, yes, it is a giant money laundering scheme. That's what it's all about. It's what it's always been about. Money laundering. They get people's names who are Democrat friendly and just figure, hey, you don't mind if we use your name and address and all your pertinent information to donate millions or maybe even billions of dollars through your name, and the Democrats will get it all and you get credit. Yeah. Anyway, that's a Revolver.news article. And then this is the little video clip here. Trump signs executive order dismantling the Department of Education. I'll leave it muted here, but I thought it was kind of interesting that you have the adult male president of the United States, and you have all of these little kids in the same room, and not one of them even got sniffed or touched inappropriately in any way. In fact, he's just signing a paper with a pen. Pretty amazing. So that's him doing away, I guess, dismantling the Department of Education. We will see how far that goes. It's one of the golden calves of the left. So I don't know. I'm not sure how far this is actually going to go, but apparently he has people advising him and knows that he can take it as far as he can take it. So anyway, that's step one. Hopefully he'll do the same thing with many other bloated bureaucracies in the U.S. government, which is pretty much all of them. All right, and then this article as well, America First Legal exposes censorship scheme by USAID and Global Engagement Center working with the UK government and media firms to use AI censorship tools. Isn't that nice? Kind of what we've all expected and been talking about. So further proof here. American First Legal released explosive new documents, which are, it's a PDF document actually attached in this article, obtained through ongoing litigation against U.S. Department of State's Global Engagement Center, exposing a vast government-backed censorship operation to silence Americans under the guise of, quote, misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation. The documents reveal a disturbing alliance between the GEC, Global Engagement Center, and the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID, the British Foreign Commonwealth Development Office, and the media censorship organizations, all working in lockstep to manipulate public discourse, control media narratives, and suppress free speech. So we've got USAID involved here. The new documents released show the GEC and USAID coordinated efforts to censor misinformation and counter propaganda. The GEC collaborated with officials in the British Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office on disinformation efforts. Yeah, and then further proof here, there's some of the documents as well. So definitely take a look at this one. This has quite a bit of information on censorship and what's going on with that, how it's tied to USAID. So again, you know, kind of going back to what we expect and what we suspect is often true. So this is further proof that it is. Headline USA, Joe Biden referenced as a traitor in the JFK assassination docs. Yeah, this is one document that came out that I thought was, you know, a little bit of an eyebrow raiser. Perhaps you guys saw this. Supposedly, and now who knows if it's true, JFK Jr. calling Joe Biden a traitor back in 1994. So who knows? Handwritten, hand-printed letter dated 1994, August 1994, beginning, Dear Senator Biden, quote, Dear Senator Biden, you are a traitor, ... and bearing the signature John F. Kennedy Jr. So who knows if that's real or not, but here's an article on that. We don't really know exactly what that's about, why he's calling him a traitor. No more details have been released about the FBI report. While the record went viral Tuesday evening on social media, it has been public since at least 2018. Said that according to this History Hub website, the letter may not have even been from JFK Jr. The FBI records indicate that despite recovering 4 latent fingerprints, the FBI and Capitol Hill police were never able to determine the actual identity of the author of the letter. A post on the government-run forum, which is called History Hub, was stated in 2018. The letter appears to have been written by an imposter or possibly someone else who shared the name of John F. Kennedy Jr. If it had been written by the son of JFK, then it would have been a simple matter to match fingerprints to him. Instead, the case was closed with no suspect identified. So we don't know if it's true. I mean, again, if you saw this out there, everyone's just assuming, oh, that's that JFK Jr. And maybe it was, but we just don't know. Not enough information. Interesting that they would have tried to get the fingerprints from it, and they clearly had his fingerprints. Anyway, but yeah, he conveniently died in a airplane crash a few years later. Isn't that nice? All right, Western Journal. This is somebody I've mentioned several times here. Colorado election clerk, 69, jailed for trying to prove election fraud, may die in prison. Let's hope not. In Colorado, you may not be sentenced to prison for sexually assaulting a child, but check on election results and it's a whole different ballgame. Former Mesa County Clerk Tina Peters believed that election software had been tampered with during the 2020 election, because my guess is it was. As Mike Davis of the Article 3 Project noted in an opinion piece published in the Denver Post on Wednesday, she gave someone else's election security credential to a man that she trusted. This individual took pictures of source codes, which should be open anyway, and published them, Davis noted. This action impacted no votes and occurred after the election. For that's all that happened. For that, 69-year-old Tina Peters sits in Larimer County Jail just a few months into the first part of her 9-year sentence. The average life expectancy for a person in the U.S. is a little over 77 years old, meaning she could die in prison. This apparently is fairness. Well, let's hope that doesn't happen. I think this is a state issue, though, so I don't think a pardon by Trump would work. Let's see here. I'm looking to see if it mentions that. Mentions Trump here, but says, kill a person, serve 2 to 6 years, make an error in judgment about electoral auditing, and have the wrong opinions, 9 years in the slammer. Maybe even death behind bars. So, not good at all, but, Tina Peters still sits in jail. So I just wanted to give you guys an update on that. That is dated 3 days ago, that article. All right, and then this one I thought was pretty interesting just because I hadn't really thought about this, but listen to what this guy did. So this says, now this is a tweet just from a random person on X, right? My friend went to the doctor recently, and the doctor diagnosed him or her with a serious issue. Doesn't really say what it is. The friend took the medical scans and uploaded them to ChatGPT. ChatGPT diagnosed this friend with something different and a much lower risk. Then the friend sends ChatGPT results to the doctor. The doctor confirms that they made a mistake and that ChatGPT was right. Insane situation, but obvious where the world is quickly going. So how about that? So whether it's true or not, it's saying that AI knows best, at least in this situation. And the doctor even admitted that they missed whatever it was, the diagnosis. And then as far as some of these replies here, literally the same thing happened with my sister, this other person says. So other people are doing this as well. So I guess this goes back to the whole idea that you should get a second opinion on whatever your doctor says. So now people are using AI as the second opinion, or at least another opinion. Very interesting, huh? Yeah, and then we were talking about the Tesla protest earlier. Get a load of this one. Diesel trucks coal rolling Tesla protesters was not on my 2025 bingo card. We are on the same team now, ? So here's what this is. It's a very short video. Pollution used in politics. Thought that was pretty wild. The secret Republican plot to make liberals look like idiots, known as Operation Just Let Them Speak, is working. Coal rolling. I never even heard of that before. But yeah, I guess they were able to just switch it on and go right in front of all these protesters. Female pilot hits runway with wing of a passenger plane. She had no clue that it happened. No clue. No clue at all. Those zany female pilots are at it again, only this time they're clipping wings and careening down the runway. The latest DEI disaster in the skies, literally every week. Just another example of what happens when identity politics trumps qualifications. But before we nosedive into this latest catastrophe, let's rewind to a recent girl power moment that ended in flames. So no disrespect to any of the girls out there listening, but that's what this article is about. DEI versus qualified pilots. So there's quite a bit here with the Delta plane that flipped over in Canada. Was operated by Endeavour Air. And this latest issue is about a very similar idea here. Delta pilot, which is the same company. Delta pilot landing in New York's LaGuardia Airport hit a wing on the runway upon landing, causing sparks to come out of the wing.
Now to the scare at New York's LaGuardia Airport, a Delta passenger jet coming in for a landing from Jacksonville, Florida. Its left wing striking the runway as pilots were lifting back off to go around again. Air traffic control telling them the wing had hit the ground. Here's Trevor Ault.
Tonight, a Delta passenger jet attempting to land at New York's LaGuardia Airport, striking its left wing on the runway, and the two pilots on board appeared unaware. Air traffic control pointing out the incident.
Somebody saw some sparks from one of your wings. You guys feel anything?
We did, but we'll check it.
The Delta regional flight arrived from Jacksonville, Florida just after 10 Sunday night. 80 passengers and crew on board. Conditions were suboptimal but not extreme. Winds gusting to 35 miles per hour with some mist in the air. The plane then circling for another landing attempt. In a statement, Delta says the crew executed a go-around, then landed safely and proceeded to its arrival gate, adding, "We apologize to our customers for the experience." Tonight, that aircraft remains grounded at LaGuardia out of service. There's no immediate indication when it may return to the air. The flight, operated by the same regional carrier involved in this dangerous incident last month, a fiery crash landing at Toronto's airport.
Hey, and David, here in New York, there were no reported impacts or injuries at LaGuardia, but the FAA says it's now investigating. David?
Trevor Ault with us here tonight. Trevor, thank you.
Yes, a fiery but peaceful landing. So anyway, apparently there was another one. This one was in New York. Probably enough on that, but it is the same company, Delta. So, more of the same. You know, how long until entire plane loads of people are completely wiped out because of this? Doesn't seem to be getting any better. Anyway, that one is on revolver.news, and then got a few more from that same site. The case against Justice Roberts, is he owned by the CIA? I would say that's probably a definitive yes, wouldn't you? Certainly compromised. By now we all know Justice Roberts and Justice Coney Barrett aren't exactly batting for the home team. We've been sounding the alarm on the Amy Coney Barrett disaster from day one, even urging Trump to steer clear. We knew she wasn't the right pick for a moment this big, and sadly we were right. This is Revolver.news talking. Amy Coney Barrett strikes again alongside Roberts. However, by now, Roberts' betrayals have become pretty much predictable. But many had high hopes for Barrett, given her history as a clerk for Justice Scalia. And so anyway, this is about that whole deal with Coney Barrett, Amy Coney Barrett. And then I'm looking to see what all they're talking about with the CIA and Roberts. Even if your head spins every time someone brings up Trump's first impeachment, whistleblowers, or John Roberts' name in the same breath, welcome to the club. Just keep in mind that it's confusing on purpose, because when the deep state is plotting a coup, they'd rather you stay very confused and in the dark. So let's break down what Roberts did that has many up in arms in very simple terms. By the way, this is all coming up again thanks to a flashback video and an X post from the Federalist editor, Sean Davis. Here's the flashback video reminding everybody how Roberts actually protected fraudulent whistleblowers. So this is the tweet here. Never forget, here's a video of Justice Roberts protecting the fraudulent whistleblower in Trump's scam impeachment. The whistleblower he claimed not to know the identity of. A scam coup attempt by Schiff, Vindeman, and others. Roberts is a traitor. So anyway. So what's the backstory? Well, during Trump's first impeachment, the left pulled off a carefully choreographed hoax using a so-called whistleblower who was actually a CIA agent named Eric Ciaramella. This guy, along with Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman and Adam Schiff, cooked up a phony story to paint Trump as some sort of international bully. The media played dumb. Politicians pretended not to know who the whistleblower was, even though everyone on the inside 100% knew. Now, here's where Justice Roberts slithers in. During Trump's impeachment trial in the Senate, Senator Rand Paul tried to ask a question that would expose the name of the whistleblower, something the American people had every right to know, but Roberts stopped him cold, refusing to read the question aloud. That was a massive break from the Senate precedent. Roberts essentially censored a sitting senator to protect a CIA operative running point on a political hit job against the sitting president. That is precisely what Sean Davis pointed out in his X post. So anyway, kind of goes deep here on that one. So, Justice Roberts, definitely not someone to be trusted, huh? Not that Trump always is either, but I just think that's kind of interesting. They're very compromised at that level, huh? Power-hungry Jill Biden just can't stop herself. She's back. Jill Biden just can't seem to stay away from the sweet, sticky grip of left-wing power. And don't be surprised if one day you hear the 4 scariest words in the English language, Jill Biden for president. You think we're joking? We wish we were. Yeah, that's not really a surprise to me. I mean, she definitely liked the power. You could tell when she was in there. As unelected as they were. We all know that President Autopin did most of the heavy lifting, but Jill weaseled her way in whenever she could, and now, as we said earlier, she's back. President Autopin didn't do anything, in my opinion. That's just what this article says here. In one of the most ironic twists of fate, she and Joe, who can barely put one foot in front of the other without a handler and a ramp, now want to build back the very party that they helped destroy. Isn't that rich? So, Jill Biden is going to run for president, this says. Who knows? Probably a little ways out on that one, I would think. Okay, this one is a meme that's making the rounds, so I thought I would mention it. MAGA roasts woman who tried snatching a Trump hat only to faceplant epically. Did you guys see this? This is her chasing him getting away. Just a guy on a subway here, and this is her doing the faceplant. So it's turned into meme central here. Let me play it, and I'll leave it muted because it's not really that important what's being said. I mean, they're arguing back and forth. This is her here. This is him over here in the red hat, and they're on the subway. Why you'd ride on the subway, I have no idea. You're taking your life in your hands these days. But, case in point, you can see here, they start arguing back and forth. She's letting him have it, telling him how racist he is for wearing that hat. And then they get off of the train, and she tries to take it from him. Of course, he runs from her, and you get the epic splat. The epic faceplant. I mean, it's just goes without saying. There it is, her going down on her face. America is winning. Patriots, wear your MAGA hats and stand up against the loonies who hate America. So it's just people have been using them for memes, like just unbelievable amounts of memes. USA and Marxism, Chariots of MAGA. Now this one is I can't play this because of the Chariots of what's it called, the Chariots of Fire theme song. I can't play it because of that, but you can see how epic it is. You guys know the music. Just imagine the music playing here, and then her splatting on her face in slow motion. So yeah, people have made all kinds of memes out of this whole thing. I think I've got another article pulled up on this, so if we get to that tonight, we'll look at some more later. But it's been meme central. It's been quite the. I would not want to be her because she probably can't go anywhere in public at this point. Oh, you're the woman who fell on her face. Trump fires nearly the entire civil rights branch of DHS. The move guts the office responsible for oversight over President Trump's immigration crackdown. Trump administration fired nearly the entire civil rights branch of the Department of Homeland Security on Friday, gutting a government office responsible for conducting oversight on Trump's immigration crackdown. The more than 100 staff members were told on Friday that they would be put on leave for 60 days to find another job in the administration or be fired in May, according to the 5 current and former government officials. All right, and then So this was a big story this week as well, actually just in the last really 24 hours. President Trump reportedly to accept the royal offer from King Charles for the USA to join the British Commonwealth. I hope Trump was just joking when he posed the comment below. When he posted the comment below, that's what it should be. So this is AJ reporting this. And he had an entire diatribe on this whole thing, and rightfully so. Now, this is the apparent tweet, which was, it's not called a tweet, I guess, on Truth Social. But this is what Trump posted. And let's just look at what this says. There's an article first that's linked called King Charles. The title says, King Charles to make secret offer to Donald Trump during the UK state visit. That's all the headline says. But it's from The Sun, which is a known tabloid type of magazine. And they love the royals, by the way. So Donald Trump posted this, says, I love King Charles, sounds good to me. Meaning this article. I think it's probably meaning the headline that this article is stating. King Charles to make secret offer to Donald Trump during UK state visit. Now, that's all the post from Trump actually says. Now, yes, I love King Charles. That's bad enough. I mean, that's the future Antichrist, obviously. At least I think so. And we know how evil this guy is. And Trump obviously knows how evil this guy is, too. So what's going on? Is he trolling people? Is he trolling Charles or what? So here's the actual article. I pulled it up. Trump card. King Charles to make secret offer to Donald Trump during state visit after Starmer hand-delivered the letter from the king. The move could symbolize Britain's close relationship with the U.S. Now, I mentioned this when it happened, that he handed him the letter. He handed him the invitation. This was several weeks ago now when they were meeting in the White House. And I said then I thought it was probably going to be something related to Ukraine, because we know Britain, or the UK in particular, I guess, the EU, really want their war with the Ukraine. And I figured it was going to be some sort of, summons from King Charles for Donald Trump to go for a visit so that he could get the lowdown on Ukraine. And can we count on the support of the U.S. kind of thing in Ukraine? So I don't know. Now, this is saying something totally different. So this is what the Sun article, again, a known tabloid, this is what they say. And I don't think that they have any idea, actually, but this is what the article talks about. King Charles will reportedly make a secret offer to Donald Trump during his state visit, which we don't know when that will be. The royal proposal is said to potentially reduce tensions between the White House and Canada. And keep in mind, Canada, of course, is a Commonwealth. It's a Commonwealth country, so part of the British Crown, essentially. Let me scroll down here a little. Plans are allegedly in the works to make the U.S. the next associate member of the Commonwealth. So what this says. The International Association, which currently boasts 56 states, so there's 56 other Commonwealth countries that are under the British Crown, could welcome the U.S. as a new member. In February, a tariff war began between the U.S. and Canada, with Trump signing orders to impose near universal tariffs on goods from Canada entering the U.S. U.S. President revealed Canada could avoid higher taxes if it joined the United States of America as its 51st state. Again, I sort of think he was trolling, but maybe not. We don't know. Canada, of which the king is head of state, meaning King Charles, is part of the Commonwealth of Nations, and including America may dampen the current conflict, including America in the British Commonwealth. And I'm thinking, yeah, well, the founding fathers are literally rolling over in their graves if this is ever going to happen. Suggestions for the U.S. to join the Commonwealth were first made during Trump's first stint to the White House by the Royal Commonwealth Society, RCS, with the blessing of Queen Elizabeth back in 2016 or whenever, 17 sometime. Now in his second term of office, the proposal has been brought back, with members of the society crossing their fingers for the king to extend an invitation to Trump upon their next meeting. And that's all this is really talking about here. Now, that's a huge deal. Joining the Commonwealth, I can't imagine that Trump would be that stupid to do that. But who knows? And, the Alex Jones post from earlier today was quite telling. He was visibly upset and very much beside himself that Trump could ever go for something like this, and also says that he thinks that he's trolling people, that he's trolling Charles and kind of making fun of him, and that he won't actually do this, but that if he did, it would be 1776 worldwide is what Alex talks about. So I don't know. I just wanted to mention this, and there was another report that I saw a few days ago, and we'll look at this as well, that Charles has pancreatic cancer and only has been given 2 years to live. And I don't know if that's true or not. I did find somebody sent me an article on that, and we'll look at that here in a little bit. I can't say that that's actually true or not. It kind of goes back to this, what's the source? Is the source actually reliable? I don't think the Sun necessarily is. Again, tabloid type of magazine, tabloid type of website. So it's something to take into consideration. I don't know that we need to be all upset about this quite yet, but if Trump actually does this, that would be one of the worst things he could possibly do. Joining the literal New World Order. I mean, the New World Order's home is the British monarchy, the British crown. I mean, it all started really there. So not good. So it's something to keep an eye on for sure. But King Charles is apparently interested. Look at this picture, very Dracula-esque type of picture. Charles is apparently at least interested in the meeting, and we don't know exactly what it's going to be about. I personally thought it was going to be more related to Ukraine and giving him the make you an offer we can't refuse sort of situation, or at least try to put pressure on him to continue supporting the war in Ukraine. I don't know. And I'm sure that will come up as well. I don't know, though, if it's that or if it's what this article is talking about. So we'll see. Just wanted you guys to be aware of that. All right, and then let's see. Let's keep moving here. We've got this one. This is a MSN repost from Fox News, I guess. Transgender runner blows out the competition and sets season record in girls race at Oregon High School track meet. So here we go again. It's still going on. The same Oregon high school that came under fire last year for allowing a transgender athlete to compete against girls continues to blow away the competition 1 year later. You'd think they could use a little bit better verbiage there. Ada Gallagher, running as a 10th grader, so who knows how old this person is, at McDaniel High School in Portland, finished in first place in 200 meters and 400 meter races during the 6A1 Portland Interscholastic League Championship in 2024. Now an 11th grader, Gallagher was back on track for a Portland Interscholastic League meet at her home track, meaning his home track, where he was spotted blowing out the competition. Again, they like to use these words, especially in the 400 meter, where he finished more than 7 seconds better than the rest of the field. So anyway, that is pretty interesting. And it's interesting, too, to me that they keep calling him her in this article when they know that that's not the truth. But it doesn't matter because they wouldn't want to hurt his feelings, would they? But me, personally, I don't mind. All right, so anyway, that is a kind of a wacky article on MSN that I came across earlier. All right, top headlines on People's Voice, the People's Voice. Experts fear Russia was behind the Heathrow fire, which, of course, they weren't, most likely. But anyway, yeah, experts think that Russia may be behind the electrical fire that shut down Heathrow Airport for 24 hours. So who knows if that's really true. Serbia's deputy PM accuses the West of trying to overthrow the government. Serbia is currently confronting a threat of a color revolution, according to the country's deputy prime minister. Russia warns it will retaliate if Ukraine keeps attacking its energy infrastructure. And then Firefighters Trade Journal determines 9/11 World Trade Center 7 collapse was explosive demolition. Groundbreaking study published in Fire and Safety Journal Americas has concluded that the collapse of World Trade Center Building 7 on 9/11 was not the result of office fires. So that's good news if that's true. And I would imagine that the folks that head up, Richard Gage and some of the others that head up the organizations that are supporting this whole idea of architects and engineers and people coming out against what happened with Building 7, I would think that they would be very happy about this, if this is true. RFK Jr. wants to ban cell phones in schools. Not a bad idea. Says kids should not be using cell phones in schools. No kidding. Family of dead whistleblower sues Boeing for wrongful death, claims company vowed to break him. We mentioned that story way back when, last summer I think it was, when that guy was taken out, very conveniently. And then trucker protest leader sentenced to 3 months house arrest for protesting restrictions in Canada. Remember the old trucker protest in Canada, the trucker convoy? Sentenced to 3 months of house arrest for protesting the restrictions. How dare he? Trump revokes security clearance of Hillary Clinton, Kamala Harris, and more, which we mentioned that at the start of the show. So those are some of the headlines on the People's Voice. And then Information Liberation, some of these headlines. Trump strong arms law firm into giving millions into pro bono work to anti-Semitism task force. Of course. Trump on Thursday boasted about strong-arming a major law firm into giving $40 million in pro bono legal services to his presidential task force to combat anti-Semitism, because that's what we need to be spending our time on, obviously. Netanyahu gifts Senator Fetterman a silver pager. Uh-oh. He's got a silver pager to commemorate the Israeli attack on Lebanon. So Trump's got a gold pager. Fetterman has a silver pager. My guess is he only gives pagers to the people he really likes. And I'm putting that in quotes. Really likes. Senator Schumer says Trump is not doing enough for the Jews. There's never enough. It's never enough, is it? No matter what you do. Israel bombs Gaza, ends ceasefire after rearming with U.S. weapons. And others. Many other headlines over here on Information Liberation. A lot of them have to do with Trump and anti-Semitism stuff that's happening. Lots of stuff directly related to the Trump administration and Israel. All right, some of the articles on RT.com. RT's a pretty good site. Russia Today I think it's a pretty good site. It seems like it's a little better than some of the mainstream media in the U.S., but of course it's a Russian mouthpiece to some degree as well. So take it for what it's worth. Trump hails rational Putin conversations. U.S. president has held at least 2 phone calls with his Russian counterpart about Ukraine over the past few weeks. He calls them rational conversations. So that's good. At least they're having conversations. That didn't happen during the Biden debacle. I mean, it was like, I don't think they talked ever. Not that it probably would have mattered because Biden wasn't running anything anyway, but says, I don't think there's anybody in the world that is going to stop Putin except me, and I think I'm going to be able to stop him, he says. We've had some very rational discussions, and I just want to see the people stop getting killed. Well, that would be nice. That would be nice, but I don't know. Not sure. And you've got Zelensky and the EU pretty much hell-bent on having war, so I don't know. It says he warned that failure to mediate the conflict could lead to World War III, but noted that it is somewhat under control. I have a good relationship with Putin and actually a good relationship with Zelensky, too. Yeah, he thinks. It'd be a great thing to be able to stop it, and I will say this, and nobody else would have been able to. So he's very sure of himself, so we'll see. We'll see where it goes. Maybe he can help get it stopped, but my guess is the war machine is too big. I thought this one was kind of interesting. More about the JFK files. I had not seen this one anywhere except for this website. JFK files. CIA contaminated sugar destined for the USSR, so back to the Soviet Union. The American spy agency's operation aimed to ruin the taste of food for consumers and inflict financial losses in the Soviet Union. They were going to contaminate sugar and send it to Russia. Well, send it to the Soviet Union. That's weird. American spies contaminated 800 bags of sugar, and it doesn't really say with what, on a cargo ship from Cuba to the USSR in the 60s. The newly released files on the assassination of JFK have revealed. One of the files, analyzed by journalist and blogger Ben Norton in the Washington Post, documents a clandestine operation by the CIA just months before the Cuban Missile Crisis in '62. In August of that year, the CIA learned about a cargo vessel transporting 80,000 200-pound bags of brown sugar to the USSR. According to a declassified paper sent to General Edward Lansdale, who was the Pentagon's Deputy Assistant Secretary for Special Operations at that time and had a long history of working with the CIA. The American spies then decided to launch a special operation to contaminate the shipment. They learned that the ship in question would briefly dock at Puerto Rico for minor hull repairs and would have to offload part of its cargo. Through a clandestine operation which was not detected and is not traceable, we were able to contaminate 800 of these bags of sugar, the paper reported. According to the CIA, the contaminated bags would then spoil the entire shipment, making it unfit for human or animal consumption in any form. The plan, however, was not to poison the Soviet people, but merely to sour their taste for life. Weird. Very strange. The contaminant we used will give the sugar an interredactable, sickly, bitter taste, which no process will remove, the spies said, maintaining that it was not in any sense dangerous to health. Weird. Those behind the operation still believe that it would ruin the taste of the consumer for any food or drink for a considerable time. So it'll mess up your taste buds, it sounds like, at least for a while. If successful, the operation was expected to inflict financial loss upon the Soviet Union amounting to between $350,000 and $400,000 at that time, according to the document. The fate of the shipment remains unclear, as RT could not find any relevant Soviet data related to the case. Maybe the ship sank. I don't know. That's really weird. That's a bizarre story to me. So, yep, they had to mess up the sugar going to Russia. That was as bad as the CIA got then, I guess. And then, of course, the very next year they killed Kennedy, and then it all went downhill from there. So, anyways, that's a weird one. All right, and then a couple more articles on RT. Boxing legend George Foreman, dead at 76. And he seemed like a genuinely good guy for the most part, except, man, did he love those snarshidivuk. It was reported that he took at least 8 snarshidivuk. So that tells you he was a pretty strong guy if he survived 8 snarshidivuk, at least for a while. So anyway, made the jump to hyperspace, George Foreman. Very sad. But yeah, that's what happens when you take snarshidivuk. NASA removes diversity pledge from lunar program. I thought this was pretty funny. U.S. space agencies dropped the DEI-focused language in response to Trump's executive order. NASA has scrubbed its public commitment to land the first woman and the first person of color on the moon under its Artemis lunar program. Well, they couldn't have done that anyway, but now conveniently they've scrubbed it, so they don't have to. Pretty funny. Yeah. So no people of color and no women are allowed on the moon. Only white guys can get in the Land Rover that's still sitting there bouncing around, and the like little Jeep that they got in. How did they even get that to the moon? Does anyone know? They just folded up and put it in the tinfoil spaceship? Is that what happened? I don't know. Anyway, pretty wacky. JFK files released. Here they are. This is on vigilantnews.com. So this has just kind of an overview of what all was released. Again, you know, it's not really that much new information. It's mostly, seemingly, at least I think, that most of the stuff that was released was to just fortify and back up the official story, the official narrative, not really anything to counter it, hoping that people will, be satisfied with this bit of information, which, it's a lot of stuff to go through. It says the first JFK files release of 2025 is an encouraging start. We now have complete versions of approximately a third of the redacted JFK documents held by the National Archives. So 1,124 of approximately 3,500 documents. Rampant overclassification of trivial information has been eliminated, and there appear to be no redactions, although that's not true. I think there were some. Though we have not viewed every document, 7 of the 10 JFK files held by the archives and sought by JFK researchers are now in the public record. These long secret records shed new light on JFK's mistrust of the CIA, the Castro assassination plots, the surveillance of Oswald in Mexico City, and CIA propaganda operations involving Oswald. The release does not include 2/3 of the promised files, nor any of the 500-plus IRS records, nor any of the 2,400 recently recovered FBI files. Nonetheless, this is the most positive news on the declassification of JFK files since the 90s. So anyway, that was a statement that was posted earlier from the Mary Farrell Foundation. So, I don't know. So, I haven't really followed it that closely, but it is available there, and this particular article has quite a bit of info on it, so might be worth looking at. I mentioned BleachBit weeks ago, and this headline kind of caught my eye just because it mentions BleachBit as well. Trump BleachBits Hillary Clinton's security clearance along with Harris, Blinken's, Sullivan, and the Bidens. Everybody's using this picture of Hillary going gaga. President Trump on Friday revoked security clearances of more than 15 top Democrats, which we mentioned this earlier. I was looking to see if there was anything about actually using BleachBit. I don't think that there would be. But I mentioned before when that software program came up on a few shows back that Hillary Clinton was probably using BleachBit. And some of the folks in chat said, no, she was using hammers and actual bleach. So that's probably true. Anyway, that's a Zero Hedge article. Hegseth orders additional carrier to Middle East amid Yemen escalation. So this kind of goes back to the show from last week, having the fiery but peaceful bombing of Yemen, which is what happened last week. Renewed conflicts are popping off in Gaza and in Yemen and possibly next in Lebanon. U.S. Central Command has this month restarted air raids against Houthi positions in Yemen, having launched at least 3 successive waves of attacks last week. So yeah, we mentioned that last week. So this is a additional aircraft carrier headed to the region. So not good. Looks like they are ramping up for more and more war. If not in the Russia-Ukraine situation, then certainly in the Middle East. Or maybe both. Maybe all at once. Tim Walz embarrassingly walks back, rooting for Tesla stock to crash. Failed 2024 Democrat Vice President nominee Tim Walz was forced to embarrassingly walk back his unhinged comments about rooting for the death of Tesla Motors after realizing that more than 1 million Minnesotan residents held shares of Musk's technology company through their state-run retirement accounts. Yeah, we've got a tweet that sort of embodies some of that idea as well. Fiery but peaceful, yes. And then, let's see, another Zero Hedge article. Replacing cash with digital dollar would pose a grave threat to our rights and freedoms. Bank of Canada has made no secret of its efforts to explore a CBDC. A digital dollar issued and controlled by the central bank. Central Bank of Canada is not alone. To date, 134 countries and currency unions have explored a CBDC, and 66 countries are already in advanced stages of implementation. Yep, pretty handy number there, 66 countries. So, article about CBDC, I thought that was kind of worth looking at. So that's on Zero Hedge as well. We've got a couple of Daily Signal articles. The sky will not fall and America won't grind to a halt because some federal employees are losing their jobs due to Doge. Yeah. The Democrat folks on the left there sure would have you believe that, though. Fear is a strong motivator, especially when it's given a political megaphone. Democrat officials, public employee unions, and their minions in the media have no qualms about trying to terrify the public with ridiculous claims in an attempt to counter Trump's swamp cleansing initiatives through the work of Doge. So, anyway, talking about the people in the government being laid off. All right, then this one as well, same site, dailysignal.com. Georgia realtor says trans activist lied to get her fired. When she sued, the judge ordered her to pay up. Transgender activists tried to hound a Georgia real estate agent out of business because the realtor urged a public library to move a sexually explicit book out of the children's section. We've all heard about that type of stuff going on. When she sued, the judge dismissed her case and ordered her to pay the activist's legal fees. Now the Georgia Court of Appeals has taken up her case, and her attorney just filed her official brief Thursday, a copy of which is exclusively provided to the Daily Signal. Her supporters say the case may set a legal precedent that gets to the heart of cancel culture. They completely misquoted me in order to try and cancel me, the realtor said. They actually filed this ethics complaint for hate speech against me, based on the misquote. She also recalled activists attacking her as a biblical terrorist. How about that? I bet I have some biblical terrorists out there in the audience right now. I may be one too. I don't know. Biblical terrorist. Wow. All right. Well, anyways. So we'll see what happens with the old appeal. I don't know if she'll get made whole here or not, but yeah, the first judge decided against her. Pretty wild. And in the SIFT, this article mentioned this earlier, actually. Power loss shuts London airport and grounds over 1,000 flights. We mentioned about the fire. I'm not sure if this talks about the fire. Yeah, it does. Officials in Britain on Friday closed Europe's busiest airport after a fire at a nearby electrical substation cut power to the facility. Heathrow Airport was expected to remain closed through the end of Friday. Officials told people not to travel to the airport since all arriving and departing flights were canceled or diverted. Wow, but that was a nightmare. About 1,350 flights were previously scheduled to move through the airport Friday, according to flight tracking website. Some of those flights were diverted to other airports in London, or in Paris, or in Ireland. What caused the fire? Well, the other article we saw earlier blamed the Russians. It was the Russians' fault. Authorities have not determined what sparked the fire, and London Metropolitan Police were assisting fire officials with the investigation. Police said Friday morning there was no indication of foul play, but they were keeping their minds open. Yes, to the possibility that Russia did it, because we all know they did. Anyway, Russia. So now we have the fire hoax. It was a real fire, but I don't think Russia started it, do you? All right, then I found this as well on Daily Crow. JFK files reveal that the CIA had no objection to declassifying a document except for one detail. Any mention of the Israeli intelligence service remains strictly off limits. So here's a close-up of the document. CIA, this is what's highlighted. CIA has no objection to declassification and or release of CIA information in this document except brackets. And the brackets say the Israeli intelligence service. So that part has to be omitted. It says, we now have plenty of money. Our new backers are Jews as soon as we or they take care of Kennedy. Here it is, highlighted. Again, we now have plenty of money. Our new backers are Jews as soon as we or they take care of Kennedy. And he was taken care of, wasn't he? Yeah, anyway, that one's on Daily Crow, actually. And then this one. Another study suggests social media contributes to mental health issues and delusion. Yeah, again, let me read that. Another study suggests social media contributes to mental health issues and delusion. Yeah. I mean, think of the entire trans army that's out there, or the entire, Trump derangement syndrome, or Elon Musk derangement syndrome, or any of that stuff. It's all done through social media, really. I mean, it's promoted through the press as well, but it's really made far worse, I think, through social media. So this is a study. Another study suggests that social media use may contribute to mental health issues, particularly for people with conditions affecting their sense of self and reality. Researchers from Simon Fraser University reviewed multiple studies and found a link between heavy social media use and disorders such as schizophrenia, narcissism, body dysmorphia, and eating disorders. The study, titled "I Tweet, Therefore I Am," published in BMC Psychiatry, explains a concept called delusion amplification by social media. Ooh, I'm going to start using that one. Delusion amplification by social media. It suggests that social media platforms, by their nature, can encourage distorted self-perceptions and delusions, particularly in users who are already vulnerable. What social media does to identities. So this goes into more of the detail here. Leading to social isolation, or social isolation leading to social media. The study highlights that many individuals struggling with these conditions turn to social media because of social isolation. Rather than forming real-world relationships, they may use online interactions to substitute for in-person connections. However, these digital spaces make it easier for delusions to take hold. So just remember that. Just keep that in mind. Yeah. Anyway, it's on mynorthwest.com. So, pretty interesting. I think there's something to it. Texas Republican legislator moves bill to ban memes. Former Texas House Speaker, it says Dad, but it's Dade Phelan, who was booted from the top spot in the Texas State House, and hence one of the most important political posts in the state, is targeting digital images that he contends would communicate false impressions about events that don't happen in reality. This would include image manipulations, photoshops, AI-generated images, and pretty much anything that could be characterized as digital alterations that communicate something that doesn't exactly reflect reality. Isn't that nice? So he's going to be the arbiter of this? Is that what's going on? He argues it doesn't affect memes, so he says, only political advertisements, but the people charged with enforcing the law beg to differ. And his motives suggest that he's not exactly sincere in his protestations that memes would not be suppressed. So he says it's not going to affect memes, but of course it would if it's any digital picture, essentially. The Texan did the work to look at what the bill actually does rather than what the author claims that it would do, and the results weren't exactly pretty. So it says, let's see here. Memes are clearly a form of parodic, meaning parody, parodic political speech, usually intended to shape how people think about issues, and are usually the sharpest and most impactful when discussing politics. That a politician is angry about his image appearing next to Nancy Pelosi is unsurprising, but the message that a Pelosi backing organization was backing Phelan could be communicated by showing the two together. The photo is instantly recognizable and communicates a message much more strongly than making people read a paragraph, and it serves the purpose of the headline in the news article. So here's the meme. Dade Phelan is my state representative. He wants to put Texans in jail for political memes. If he puts me in jail for this meme, I will run against him from jail. As one of his constituents, I am embarrassed by everything he represents. So there's the meme. There he is everywhere. And got the crying face here. It is true that memes are hyperbolic and occasionally downright unfair. Welcome to politics. This sort of behavior is why Phelan was booted from the top by his colleagues, and it's easy to see why they did. But he says, nope, doesn't affect memes. Looks like it does. All right, and then this story I mentioned earlier, just a further link, further information on InfoWars website. Breaking exclusive swatters now sending pizza deliveries to victims' homes with the name of murdered InfoWars reporter Jamie White on it, as the deep state Democrats take their terror campaign against the American people to the next level. So more about swatting here and the pizza deliveries. Very strange. Yes, it had in the note on the receipt, it mentioned that it was supposed to be delivered to Jamie White, who of course was murdered, and said that on the pizza receipt. So they definitely know what's going on as far as the people doing the swatting. John Hopkins genetics study shows that 97.5% of Judaics living in Israel have absolutely no ancient Hebrew DNA, and therefore not Semites. How about that? John Hopkins genetic study shows 97.5% of Judaics living in Israel have absolutely no ancient Hebrew DNA, are therefore not Semites, and have no ancient blood ties to the land of Palestine at all, whereas 80% of Palestinians carry ancient Hebrew DNA and thus are real Semites, according to this post. Who knows? Thought that was kind of interesting. Yeah, and then this article, mostimportantnews.com, as they cry out peace and safety, all I see is more war, which is kind of what we were starting the show with tonight. It seems like it's war ramping up everywhere. They keep telling us that we have entered a time of peace, but more conflict just continues to erupt all over the globe. Israel has just resumed ground operations against Hamas. Trump is threatening to keep bombing the Houthis until they are completely annihilated. We're being told that something's going to happen with Iran very soon, and the very limited agreement between Russians and Ukrainians to avoid striking energy infrastructure did not even last 24 hours. Compared to last week, do we have more or less war? Clearly, we have more. So you will have to excuse me if I am a little skeptical of those that are crying out that a time of peace and safety is now upon us. Yeah, I don't know who really believes that. The ceasefire between Israel and Hamas was supposed to lead to a permanent resolution of the conflict. Well, yeah, I don't know who believes that. I certainly don't. But instead, the ceasefire is now dead and the war is back on. I don't think it ever really ended, do you? So I thought that was kind of interesting, just talking about, it's peace and safety. And it, who knows if that's what we're going to actually see here, if there's going to be some sort of peace plan, and it looks like there really will be peace, and then boom, something bad happens directly after that. It's very possible. I don't know. You could be looking at anything, really. Could be Isaiah 17 with Damascus. Could be, something kicking off elsewhere in the Middle East or Israel itself, or it could be something with Ukraine and Russia or somewhere else around that area. It's really hard to know. But yeah, a lot of people are talking about that. Peace and safety, and yes, more and more war. That's all we get. So I'm not going to play this because it's kind of long, but this is more that has to do with the pyramids. We talked about opening the show tonight. Groundbreaking findings on the Giza Pyramid Complex could rewrite human history. Now, this video was the one that kind of got everybody talking about this, as far as I know. This particular video on X has 9.5 million views. So I think a lot of people were really interested in this whole thing with the Giza Pyramid, all of the findings underneath it. So there's quite a bit here. There's a guy named Jay Anderson on X, and he was actually on several other shows as well, being interviewed about all of this. So I don't know if he's the resident expert on this whole thing now or what, but he seems to be the person that most people are talking to and talking about with regards to Giza. So there's that, and then there's a couple of Daily Mail articles too. Scientists say they've discovered vast city underneath Egypt's Giza pyramids, but experts raise concerns. So some people are not too sure. Anyway, this is more pictures and more information on this Daily Mail article. And then here's a secondary one that says the War of the Pyramids row over what really lies beneath Egypt's Giza monuments explodes after a secret city investigation. So personally, I think that there really is something under there that would make a lot of sense. And, you know, kind of like the Catholic Church, when something ancient was known to be underground, the Catholic Church would swoop in and build a church on top of it so that it had full control over that property. Perhaps that's what happened here. We don't know. I mean, maybe this was an existing structure and, you know, the pyramid was there and the Egyptians just moved in and took over. You know, didn't have anything to do with any of it. Don't know. But so this got me thinking about and remembering about the Bosnian pyramid because it's talking about the War of the Pyramids. So that's where I came up with that. I had to look it up again because I'd forgotten what the archaeologist's name was. We had him on Lost Search Radio 2 or 3 different times. Really nice guy. Dr. Osman Nagic is how you say it. Bosnian archaeologist. And if you've never heard of or seen the Bosnian pyramid, I think it's fascinating. This is it. It's completely covered with grass and dirt and trees. So if you're down at the base of it or down looking, you know, down at that level, the ground level, you wouldn't necessarily even see that it's anything other than a mountain, but you can clearly see from the sky here, from this aerial photo, that it is definitely a pyramid. And Dr. Sam, who has been a guest on Lost Arts Radio a few times, and we've talked to him at length, explains the whole thing, and he was the discoverer of the Bosnian pyramid, of this. He was the guy that put it all together because he was by nature a archaeologist. So it's a really fascinating subject, and yes, there are pyramids all over the place, not just in Egypt. That's the ones that you always hear about, but there are others. There's some in Mexico and South America in general and all over the place. But these Bosnian ones I think are really interesting, and he had a lot to say about some of the discoveries that they've found in the pyramid in Bosnia. It's called the Pyramid of the Sun. Pyramid of the Sun is the name of it. This one. That's the big one, but there are some others, I guess, in that area too. Anyway, I just find it's a really fascinating and interesting thing to look at. So yeah, Bosnian Pyramid, if you didn't know about that. And I will try and link to, I didn't pull any of the Lost Arts Radio shows up tonight, but I will try and remember and make myself a mental note here and put a couple of links to those interviews with Dr. Sam, this guy right here. Let's see if, let me go to this article and see if it's got a better picture of him. Yeah, that's him. Dr. Sam Osman Nagic claims that 12,000 years ago, early Europeans built the greatest pyramidal complex on Earth in Bosnia. This article is dated December 2009. So you can see that this is a long story. Goes way back. And again, he's the discoverer of the one in Bosnia, at least, the big one. And it's, I think, a really interesting article. So we'll link to those interviews that we did in the Substack post that I send out on Tuesday. So make sure you're on that list if you're not already, and totally free. And yeah, that you'll get all the links to the articles that I mentioned tonight. All those links. It takes a long time for me to go through and copy and paste, but I do it every time because I love you guys. And I know you love links. All right, SingularityHub.com. Thought this one was interesting. New tech bends sound through space so it reaches only your ear in a crowd. Audible enclaves are local pockets of sound that no one else can hear. No headphones required. Reminded me of voice-to-skull technology. That's what it sounds like. I don't know what it is. What if you could listen to music or a podcast without headphones or earbuds? And without disturbing anyone around you, or have a private conversation in public without other people hearing you? Newly published research from our team at Penn State introduces a new way to create audible enclaves. That's what they're calling it. Localized pockets of sound that are isolated from their surroundings. In other words, we've developed a technology that could create sound exactly where it needs to be. The ability to send sound that becomes audible only at a specific location could transform entertainment, communication, and spatial audio experiences. Yeah, and it's already been weaponized. It's called voice to skull, as I'm reading this article for the first time. What is sound? I think we know about that. Science of audible enclaves. I'm looking to see what they're doing here. Ultrasound refers to sound waves with frequencies above the range of human hearing, or 20K. These waves travel through the air like normal sound waves, but are inaudible to people because, yeah, it's like a dog whistle. Because ultrasound can penetrate many materials and interact with objects in unique ways, it's widely used for medical imaging. And many industrial applications. Wonder what that is. In our work, we used ultrasound as a carrier for audible sound. It can transport sound through space silently, becoming audible only when desired. How can we do this? Normally, sound waves combine linearly, meaning they just proportionally add up to a bigger wave. However, when sound waves are intense enough, they can interact non-linearly, generating new frequencies that were not present before. This is the key to our technique. We use two ultrasound beams at different frequencies that are completely silent on their own, but when they intersect in space, nonlinear effects cause them to generate a new sound wave at an audible frequency that would be heard only in that specific region. Oh, okay. So you have the ultrasound sources, you have the person, and you have the audible enclave, inaudible self-bending ultrasonic beams. So they're using two different sources sort of crisscrossing each other here. Anyway, very strange. Yeah, it sure sounds the world to me like voice-to-skull technology, but it might be different, but it's a similar idea, I think. Those voices in your head may not be your own head making them up, right? Very strange. All right, and then I came across this one too, and I wanted to see if Barron Trump is mentioned in this article. I don't think he is, but that's what I thought of when I saw this. Look at this. Over 3 million applicants' data, 3 million applicants' data leaked on NYU's website. You know, New York University? The hacker accused the university of continuing to use illegal race-sensitive admissions. The redirected homepage also linked files revealing names, test scores, and personal information of applicants since 1989. So if you went to NYU, your information was probably compromised. Let's see. It says a hacker took over NYU's website for at least 2 hours Saturday morning to expose over 3 million applicants' names, test scores, majors, and zip codes, as well as information related to family members and financial aid dating back to at least 1989. The university's website was restored at around noon. The hacked page displayed 3 charts with what the group claims to be NYU's average admitted SAT scores, ACT scores, and GPAs for the 24-5 admission cycle. The group argued that despite the Supreme Court's takedown of affirmative action in 2023, NYU continued anyway, showing that average admitted test scores and GPAs for Asian and white applicants were higher than those who identify as Hispanic or Black. The page, first reported by a user on Reddit around 10:30, included 4 accessible CSV files revealing NYU admissions data since at least 1989, including over 3 million admitted students' applications, demographic areas, city and zip codes, and citizenship status. The files also show common application data, which includes details of financial aid, rejected students, and how many students applied, early decision, and personal information about siblings and parents. So, wow, it's a ton of info here. What I was looking at, though, was that's the school where Barron Trump is going. But it doesn't mention that here at all, but still, it makes you wonder for sure. Somebody after his information, you suppose, or is he part of it? I don't know. It looks like it's more related to affirmative action than anything as far as the hack goes. But I thought it was kind of interesting. Washington Square News is what that is. All right, now Forbidden Knowledge TV, they have more on the pyramids. So if you're into the pyramid thing, they have more on here. We won't bother going through all those, but there's quite a few things, including some extra stuff here on JFK files as well. So forbiddenknowledgetv.net. And then Leo's Substack, Political Violence on the Rise Across America as the Left Swats Reporters. So more on swatting. No ceasefire deal comes out of the Trump-Putin talks, but here's what they did agree on. So a couple new articles on his Substack. Natural News exposed Antifa and IRS collude to shield radical funding from taxation. So that is Ann Vandersteel revealing documents suggesting Antifa-linked organizations are working with the IRS to shield funds from taxation. That's nice. Canola oil can be toxic to your brain. American food is the most toxic food on earth. That's one of the other articles on Natural News. Columbia University students self-deports following visa revocation over pro-Hamas protests. And yeah, if you say anything anti-Semitic, you're automatically pro-Hamas. That's how that works. I don't know. There's quite a few other interesting pieces of information on naturalnews.com. Always is. Good site. And some good interviews as well on Health Ranger Report on Brighteon. Good stuff. And then Wine Press News for this week. Here we go again. Fed Chair Powell warns that inflation is transitory because of Trump's tariffs. Trump worship. Florida hosts drone show praising the president. Gifted a goat idol covered in $100 bills. Weird. Yeah, there's a drone display that's shaped like Trump. So anyway, those are some of the Wine Press Substack articles. Gateway Pundit articles. So I was wondering what was going on with the old Pope, but he's still kicking. Watch first video of Pope Francis greeting Catholics after 5-week battle with pneumonia. Doctors prescribe 2 months of rest with limited activity. After a grueling battle against double pneumonia and a bout of kidney failure, Pope Francis returned to the Vatican today. This is dated the 23rd. These 5 weeks on Rome's Gemelli Hospital became the most serious health crisis of his 12-year papacy. He's 88. Okay. Anyway, so the old Pope has returned to the Vatican apparently, and this is an update from a story I mentioned last week with the microphone incident where Trump gets smacked in the face with the dead cat thing on the microphone, which is just the fuzzy, like right here, goes over the end of the microphone. The fuzzy thing that goes on there. It's to prevent wind from blowing into the microphone. It's what it's for. It's called a dead cat. Anyway, she thumped him in the face with it. Update, NPR reporter Daniel Kurtzleben, who says her brand is more or less P*NIS politics, deletes her X account after being named by Laura Loomer for bopping Trump in the face with the boom mic. So she does not exist on Twitter X anymore. Daniel Kurtzleben. But someone screenshotted her, so she might not exist anymore on there, but she'll live forever in screenshots. The mystery of the reporter who hit Trump in the face with a boom mic on Friday deepened this week as the NPR reporter who bopped Trump in the face deleted her X account days after setting it to private, just minutes after Loomer published an expose on the incident on Sunday. So she got the right girl here. Pretty wild. There he is getting smacked in the face with it. Played that last week. President Trump's hit in the face with the fuzzy end of a boom mic called a dead cat. See, I just told you that. You already knew that while answering questions. Anyway, she's gone on Twitter X. It's probably good. All right, DHS Secretary Noem issues a powerful statement in response to the radical left agitators swatting influential conservatives. Yeah, she's actually been more front and center about this than anybody, I think, on the swatting, as far as what she has said. But they're saying they're going to prosecute, so I think that's good news. Yeah, Nick Sordor was, his family was swatted. I don't know that he was. He said he would be hard to be swatted. I heard an interview with him because he moves around so much. But that his family, who's not involved in politics at all, and who don't even 100% support what he reports on, got swatted. So isn't that nice? So Gunther Eagleman got swatted. Sean Farash, I mentioned them last week. Anyways, let's see here. Kristi Noem has broken her silence in a big way regarding these sinister criminal attacks on those practicing journalism and expressing politically incorrect views. In an X post, Noem minced no words on what was in store for these leftist losers. So here's what she said. Under President Trump's leadership, we will not sit idly by as conservative new media and their families are being targeted by false swatting, Noem wrote at DHS.gov. Has the ability to trace phone numbers and track location information. We will use it to hunt these cowards down. This is an attack on our law enforcement and innocent families, and we will prosecute it as such. So she's been stronger about this whole thing than Kash Patel has, which maybe that's a surprise, maybe that's not. I don't know. So anyway, you know, we'll see what happens, but yeah, it's attempted murder is what it is. If you're being swatted, then the person that's doing the swatting is hoping that you're going to pull out a gun and try and fire upon the police, of which as soon as you do, you're dead, or just that they'll have some, police people that show up at your house who are just trigger happy or whatever and just start shooting. I don't know which, but it's a version of attempted murder for sure. And yeah, it's got to stop. So this is not good. Okay, here's the other Pope article. I thought I had another one pulled up. After weeks of oxygen therapy, Francis will have to relearn how to speak. Top cardinal denies pontiff is thinking of resigning. So he won't even be able to speak. Wow. Ailing Francis has entered his fifth week in the hospital, battling double pneumonia. Now, see, the other article said, the article dated the day before the one I just read, saying that he was still in the hospital. So he just got out on Sunday, I guess, the 23rd. So anyway, Pope Francis is slowly regaining his strength in the hospital, but must relearn to speak after prolonged use of high-flow oxygen therapy. Probably messed up his vocal cords, I'm guessing. Anyway, pretty interesting. Not sounding too good for the old Pope, even if he can't. I mean, I don't know how he's going to be able to do what he would normally do without being able to speak, at least not for very long. Is he just going to write it down? I don't know. And then more about the pyramids. If you wanted your fill of pyramids, this is a week for it, I guess. Archaeologists claim they have found a vast underground city underneath the pyramids. Yes, we know. Getting kind of tired of it. I don't know about you guys. Trump revoked security clearance from Hillary. We knew about that one. And then this is the, I mentioned the memes that come out of this whole thing with this crazy woman chasing the guy with the MAGA hat. It's pretty funny. They're all linked here, by the way. Some good ones. And I think I might have that pulled up separately here too somewhere. Speaking of memes, this one should be a meme, but it's not. At least it wasn't. At least initially it wasn't. It is now. Here's what AOC had to say.
We need a Democratic Party that fights harder for us today. We need a Democratic Party that fights harder for us today.
Need a Democratic Party that farts harder. Well, they probably already have that if they just look closer. So you can see this is the face of the dial-up modem sound. Pretty funny. There she is heiling Hitler as she's going up on stage. And then Swalwell, who was caught on microphone doing exactly that in a Zoom meeting one time, says, I'm on it. So these memes are great. So this is, instead of fight, 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 you have fart, fart, fart. Caution, Democrat farting in progress. So, the memes are good here. Here's, you can see one happening right there. Blows her away. Hermione agrees. Here's Swalwell. Yeah, he's on board with that. Let me see if this is the one. I thought it was a Zoom meeting, but maybe it's this.
Predicted that the president used taxpayer dollars to ask the Ukrainians to help him cheat an election. Is uncontradicted that the president used taxpayer dollars to ask the Ukrainians to help him cheat an election.
So, I don't know. You think it's real? It sounds real to me. I don't know. So, yep. Thank you, Democrats. It's just a never-ending zone of memes and fun with them. Too funny. Yeah, so this one's a little spooky. Masked maniac terrorizes liberal woman for driving a Tesla and demands that she sell the Nazi car in an unhinged attack. So he pulls in front of her. She's in a Tesla. He drives around and pulls in I don't know why they bothered blocking his license plate. He pulls in front of her and stops, makes her stop in the road, and gets out, and he's masked. I thought he looked like he was carrying something as well, but maybe he's not. Can't really tell in that picture. But he goes up to her and warns her and tells her that, he says he gets out and walks straight up to her car window. So she cracks the window just to see what he's going to say. She says, what's the problem? He goes, you need to sell your car. This is a Nazi car. You're driving it. You ought to sell your car. This woman said. And I think there's a video of it. Yeah, there's a video linked here. So, but my question, I guess, that I had was, if that's the case, who could she possibly sell her car to that he wouldn't be mad at and start yelling at? So if she's supposed to sell her car, that will satisfy him. If she sells her car, who's going to buy it? And is it possible that someone else could buy the car that he wouldn't be mad at and yell at and tell him to go sell the car? So this is just further proof that liberal people have no idea how economic anything works. They don't have no idea on economics at all and how it works. So the goal is to get them to sell the car, but there's never a person that could buy the car that they wouldn't be mad at and yell at and tell them to sell the car. It's just a vicious circle. Anyway, very strange. It's a weird one. Zelensky demands Russia return all territory back to Ukraine. I don't think that's happening, do you? I thought that was kind of pretty ridiculous. Zelensky announced in Helsinki that Russia must surrender all territory. Remember, Russia is winning, and they've pretty much destroyed Ukraine, but they have to surrender all the territory it gained, or what? I don't know. Or the EU is going to come for them, I guess. Later, Thursday, Zelensky demanded more cash from American taxpayers. More cash. The untold hundreds of billions was not enough. He needs more. Anyway, so that is a Gateway Pundit article. Let's see, I didn't have any Not the Bee articles this time. And then, what else? Oh, well, this is, I won't play this because I know it's kind of long, but some of you guys don't care for AJ. But he really lets Trump have it in this. And I'll just read what he wrote here. This is earlier today. I've got a message for Donald Trump. If you really try to make America join the British Commonwealth, 1776 will commence again. So AJ is had it with this whole idea of joining forces with King Charles and the Commonwealth. So good for him. I think he's exactly spot on. I'm just showing you this, saying that there are certain things that Trump could do that really sets Alex off and wouldn't go along with. He wouldn't go along with that. Americans everywhere are shocked by President Trump's announcement that he may attempt to put King Charles at the head of the United States of America, literally reversing the world-changing achievement of the American Revolution in 1776. So, but we looked at it earlier. Nowhere in the tweet or in the article, the article was talking about that, joining the Commonwealth, but nowhere in the tweet was that mentioned. It just said a secret, and that is what Trump said was so great, that he would go for that, or whatever it said in the original post by Trump. So I think, personally, I think that they're jumping to conclusions here based on a article written by The Sun, who is a known, tabloid type of website and magazine, and may not really be what it's all about. So I don't know. Now, I could be wrong. Maybe that is what it's going to be about. I personally think it's going to be more about Ukraine and all of that. So we'll see. But anyway, I just wanted to mention that he says 1776 will commence again. And I think that's going to make a lot of people awfully unhappy with Trump if he goes along with anything that old sausage fingers suggests, meaning King Charles III. Report claims Brigitte Macron is a man, could seriously harm U.S. and French relations. How about that? Conspiracy theory gaining ground in Trump circles. I don't know if it's a conspiracy theory. I think it's more fact than theory. Claims that Macron's wife, Brigitte, is actually a man, could seriously harm international relations between the U.S. and France, according to a report by The Telegraph. The source of the claim is a 2021 article which appeared in the French journal asserting that the 71-year-old First Lady and her brother, Jean-Michel Trogneux, were actually the same person, which we've heard all about that already from Miss Owens, and that's who's mentioned here. So now it's Candace's fault that that the U.S. and French relations might be harmed. No, I think it's Brigitte's fault and her husband's fault, Emmanuel Macron's fault, that they're hiding it. Just come out and say, he's really a man. He always has been. And what could happen? I mean, the press would love him, wouldn't they? You know they would. And then the truth would come out. Vaccine impact articles. Let's see here. Tens of thousands Israelis continue to protest in Israel against Netanyahu as the country descends into chaos and is on the brink of civil war. Well, I have two friends that live in Israel, just some guys that I know. One guy is, well, you know who he is. He's Dr. Cousins that works with Richard, and I know him, and he says that that's not happening. So, and he lives there, so I don't know. I'm not sure I buy that. But that's the article here on vaccine impact. Let's see what else. War in Israel escalates as hundreds killed in Gaza, while ex-Israeli Supreme Court judge warns Israel is on the brink of civil war. So again, with the war, I mean, that's very possible. I don't know. I'm just telling you from people that I know on the ground over there, that's not really what they're seeing. Doesn't mean that's not what's happening behind the scenes, but, you know, we like to report the facts around here. All right, GeoWatch for this week. We have engineered flash freezes and fires, crop crushing weather whiplash, flash freezes and Florida firestorms. That's a lot of F's. Weather warfare operations are taking a massive toll in the U.S. and around the world. Devastating drought and deluge scenarios are wreaking havoc in countless countries and racking up trillions in losses for the financial sector. But can the true cost of what is taking place be measured with money? How catastrophic will conditions need to become before the climate engineering elephant in the equation is finally acknowledged? So Global Alert News for this week, which was dated March 22nd. So make sure you check that one out. And that was episode, 502. So we're over 500 episodes of GeoWatch. Global Alert News. That one's available on geoengineeringwatch.org. And let's see here. What does the scheduled weather look like? This week, We have more of the big solid stripes across the country, not really the half and half like we've been having. Last week, I think, was a little different as well. But we have big swaths of warmer than normal. So depending on where you live, it's probably going to be a little warmer than it normally is. So that is the engineered weather for this week. Let's see what actually transpires. But March 29th through April 2nd is when the dates are on that map. So that is on the NOAA scheduled weather website here. I call it that, but it's just the National Weather Service Climate Prediction Center. Yeah, and then I mentioned Charles, and this is a video on the Royal Family Channel. Charles learns about latest cancer research during a visit to North Ireland. So they're talking to him here about cancer research, and the reason I'm showing this is not because we need to hear it necessarily, but I wanted to show you this. You guys know who Dr. Ben Marble is? I follow him on X, and we've tweeted back and forth a couple times just publicly where I put stuff out and he's made a comment on it or whatever. And I think he's, I don't know, maybe misled on this, and use your judgment. This is what was said. So this goes back a little ways. Let me see if I can find, I don't see it. Back in August, I had tweeted something about Charles, and he had responded to it, and basically calling Charles an evil piece of Shiite who is too stupid to realize he's been poisoned and will die suddenly soon, just like WEF did to his parents. So that was a while back when that was tweeted, and then he just a couple days ago must have remembered that and reposted this in response to that, going back to August, right? And the new article that Dr. Benjamin Marble tweeted says, "How is it that I am always so right?" And the article says, King Charles diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, given 2 years to live, according to this report. And I don't know if it's real or not. I'm not exactly sure what he's not linked to anything. It's just a photo of the supposed article, and there's no link to the article, so I can follow up on it and read it. So I don't know what to make of that, other than he's claiming that he's always right about this, and Charles is going to die from cancer. And this guy's a doctor. I don't know. I don't think he's actually examined Charles, though, from what I gather. So to that, I said, so here, let me just read this article. It says, King Charles diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, given 2 years to live, according to this report. This is dated March 14th, so pretty new. So I don't really know where this was posted. It's just a screenshot with no link. Buckingham Palace announced in February of last year that Charles had been diagnosed with cancer, but officials did not offer any specifics with regard to the severity of his condition or the organs affected. However, insiders claim that Charles' prognosis is an open secret among royal staffers, and that those closest to him know exactly what kind of cancer he's battling. According to the report from In Touch, King Charles was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer and given just 2 years to live. Again, going back to this, he doesn't look that bad to me, does he to you? He looks like he's having fun. Pancreatic cancer? So, again, I don't know that I buy that. So, anyway, Dr. Ben Marble tweeted this to me so I would see it, because he remembered our August exchange. Oh, here it is. It's here. He remembered our August exchange. The original thing that was posted here was this article, or was this video about UK police showing up and arresting this guy for his speech. And all I said was, in August of 2024, "Hi, Dr. Ben, I agree. except I personally believe these guys are simply carrying out the orders that they were given by King Charles III. Charles is the actual power here. We've been sold a lie that he is this unimportant royal and doesn't matter. He's evil. Remember the red painting of him. And he tweeted, King Charles is an evil piece of Shiite who is too stupid to realize he's been poisoned and will die suddenly, just like his WEF, just like the WEF did to his parents. So he's saying that he's got cancer because he took Ash, is what he's saying here. So this is going back to August. And then just the other day, he tweeted this article I just read you about him having pancreatic cancer. So my response to all this was to say, he is not dead yet, is he? What will happen if he dies soon, then comes back to life? I've been saying that for some time, that there will be an attempt on his life this year, or perhaps it's this cancer that does him in. If he dies, then comes back fully indwelt by Satan. Have you not seen Tim Cohen's work on Charles? His book is The Antichrist and a Cup of Tea. To that, Dr. Marble tweeted instantly almost back to me saying, Charles is a pile of retard Shiite, but he is not the AC. That was what he said almost instantaneously. And to that, I said, did you read the book already? No response. Crickets. So it's just a little back and forth with Dr. Ben Marble. I think he means well, and I've seen him on Alex's show before. I think, he's right on the whole book thing, but I think he's wrong on Charles. And I just wanted to mention this just because you have these people out there who are so sure about what they know. This guy's a doctor, so he's particularly that way, but so sure about what they know that they can't be convinced otherwise. And maybe I'm wrong about Charles. Maybe so. And I would love to be wrong about Charles, but I think he will be the biblical Antichrist. I still think that. Emily says, Mr. Marble obviously not aware that articles can be falsely written. Yeah, and I don't know, there was no link. If there was a link to it, then I could have looked it up and having a little bit more information for you guys. But, this screenshot doesn't really tell me a whole lot. But he got it from somewhere. I don't know where. Anyway, I just thought I would relay that just because it was, to me, kind of an interesting story. And that's the only place that I've ever seen that Charles has pancreatic cancer. And this video here doesn't seem to confirm that. He's laughing and being jovial and wandering about all over Northern Ireland. He's getting around pretty well. Now he's got Trump coming to see him, I guess, soon. Would somebody with pancreatic cancer have that sort of resolve? Would he be able to do all these things? I don't know. I don't know that I've known anybody with pancreatic cancer, but it sounds pretty darn serious to me. So you'd think he would be in a hospital bed somewhere, but he's not. So anyway, pretty weird. All right, so yeah, follow me on X if you're not already there. Put out some interesting tweets, usually retweeting a lot of stuff. It's more important to be morally right than factually correct, says the woman who is neither. She's a living NPC. Non-playable character. They cheered on Tim Walz's attempt to drive Tesla stock downward, but it backfired. They're not very bright. That's because it says Musk only owns 12.8% of Tesla. Dear liberal terrorists and criminals, the other 87.2% is owned by companies funding your 401k. Little detail there they're missing. When you scratch a Tesla, remember Elon didn't paint the car. When you burn a Tesla, remember Elon didn't assemble the car. When you puncture the tire on a Tesla, remember Elon didn't put the tires on the car. Hardworking Americans did. Yeah, this is what democracy looks like. Yep, as we said earlier, mostly peaceful. But this is domestic terrorism right here. And this is also peaceful protesting. Burning up Teslas and dealerships. Yeah, okay, so here's the video I mentioned a little bit ago. This is the man who stalked the Tesla driver and cut her off to yell at her and told her to sell her car. But who would she sell her car to? She should have asked him if he wanted to buy it. That would have been funny. And just so you didn't, if you didn't already know this, the melting points of gold, melting point for gold is 1,948 degrees Fahrenheit. Titanium, 3,034 degrees Fahrenheit. Liberals is just having a differing opinion. That's the melting point for liberals. And this one, watching Democrats key each other's cars. Watching Democrats key each other's cars. And this one's kind of self-explanatory, I guess, as well. I got the Cybertruck with the Toyota logo on the back. The left is pretty dumb, so this should work. That's good. And this one from a guy I follow, Robbie Starbuck, on Twitter. He's really good. He's actually here where I'm at, in this same area. Democrats warn abolishing the Department of Education could result in kids being too smart to vote for Democrats. Yeah, and then the last one here. Believing scary media stories. You have the small brain. Noticing some inconsistencies. Your brain is, look, much bigger and starting to light up. Knowing that they lie all the time. You have superstar brain here. And then you get the mega superstar brain actually finding humor in their pathetic attempts to manipulate. This is what we try and do on this show every single week. Finding humor. So I hope you are also in this category. Not that I am all the time, but I try to be. Making fun of them is part of the fun of this whole thing. All right. Well, that's that's all on the X files, x.com/the Diamond Report, the Diamond RPRT on there. Got a few new followers, so thanks if you're following on there. Appreciate that very much. And then, yeah, Substack. This is the Substack page. We go ahead and take a look at it. We click. So you go here and drop in your email address and click subscribe. Or if you don't want to subscribe, that's fine. You can still get to the articles. Just click on no thanks. Let me do a refresh. I pulled this web page up earlier before I actually sent out the live news alert here. Yeah, I sent it out late. I usually try and send the live news broadcast alert and links and stuff out about noon on Sunday, and I totally forgot today. I was busy doing other stuff. So anyway, I did send it out about 9 p.m. or 9:30 or whatever time it was. Not too long before we went live, but I did manage to send it out. But if you go to the Substack and pull it up, you can see the latest links here. There's the two most left top links here on the page are from the most recent week's show. So these two here are both from last week. One of them is the podcast, the audio podcast, and the other one is the links, which conveniently are all of the links from the show that I talked, all the articles I talked about last week on the show. So those are right here on the one that says links. The one that says podcast is not really the links per se. It's more just the audio podcast version of the show. And then as you scroll downward, there's more shows here. So there's quite a few here, and then those are also fed, the audio podcasts are also fed over to Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So if you happen to be on those platforms, either one of them, you can certainly find the broadcasts on there. And this show tonight will also be on there tomorrow sometime. So anyway, feel free to follow along there if you happen to be on Apple Podcasts and use that platform, or on Spotify. Those are just the audio versions, though. The video versions will be available on the other platforms such as Rumble and BitChute and Brighteon. And also on Facebook if you happen to still be on there, which I have lots of friends on Facebook. So yeah. Anyway, Facebook and BitChute and Brighteon, they're all Diamond Disc. So it's just DIAMONDISC. Let me see if I can find it here. Right here. That's how you spell it. That is my company name, and I use that for my username on these video platforms because it's fairly easy for people to remember. It's just the word diamond with ISC at the end. And that's where you can find me. Now, my YouTube channel is not that. It used to be, but that channel got flattened. That channel got bullied out of existence by YouTube. So it does not exist anymore on there, although I think I have it set up. Let me look and see. If we go to youtube.com/@DiamondDisc, let me see what happens. I think you do get my other channel, and then it redirects you. Let me see. You don't get an error. Yeah, okay. So if you do happen to go to youtube.com/@DiamondDisc, you get this page, which I set up, which just basically directs you over to Take It to the Lord in Prayer, which is where that is. And then the other channel was my music thing that I haven't used in several years. So anyway, you're welcome to subscribe, though, on Take It to the Lord in Prayer, End Times Dates. Would really appreciate that. That's always helpful. And yeah, I've maintained a few subscribers on here. We've finally surpassed the 921 mark. I wasn't sure I'd ever be able to get past that. So yeah, I'm sitting at 927 today, the highest it's ever been. So thank you all for subscribing on there, and thank you to you guys who are new subscribers on YouTube. I certainly appreciate that. And yeah, I'm definitely going to be doing a few new videos. I don't know exactly when, but I want to do one soon that covers what we talked about before with this Serapeum website. I've mentioned it a few times, but Dustin Nemos's timeline, and also mentioned this Law of Liberty, and some of the graphics here. I didn't preload these, so that's why it's taking a little while for it to load. Some of these graphics that are put out by Law of Liberty Baptist Church. So we'll kind of, make a video here where we're talking about all of these different timelines and the one that I put out as well, and kind of cross-pollinating and talking about some of the timings of possibly what could happen, how things could unfold, and we'll do that as a separate broadcast, though. It's not something that I want to do on a live broadcast necessarily, but we'll do that as a podcast at some point. So I do have those tabs still pulled up. We'll talk about that when we get around to it. Hopefully it will be before too long. And then if you want to help out what I'm doing, I would really appreciate it. And spend a lot of time on this show every week, and hopefully it's getting better week by week, but I don't know. I'll let you guys be the judge of that. But sharing it is the number one thing you can do to help. And then, of course, if you want to help financially with what I'm doing, that really does help offset the cost to me. And because right now it's all out of pocket, and I've got a total of 6 whopping subscribers on Subscribestar, and that starts at $5 a month. So it's just a monthly type thing. If you don't want to do that, you can do one-time donations on Subscribestar as well. I've had a couple people do that. Actually, one person do that. And I think I'm up to a total of 11 subscribers. I lost one on Substack. I mentioned that a week or two ago. But Substack, I've got a few subscribers on there, and 6 on here. So we haven't even reached a total of 20 subscribers yet between the two platforms as far as paid subscribers. But, that's okay. I'm totally willing to continue funding it out of my pocket. I don't mind. I know you guys wouldn't mind. You do it too, wouldn't you? No, I'm just joking. But yeah, that is something that's there if you guys are interested. No pressure. If you don't have the money, can't afford to do it, then by all means, don't do it. That's totally fine. But definitely share the show if you can. That helps me a lot, and helps get the word out about the show. And not that I'm running ads or anything, but that's the best thing that you can do to help me out. And then, of course, the other option is if you want to spend a couple bucks and buy something small. Let's see. The cheapest thing on here is what? I guess it would be the Diamond Report Cork Coaster. $10. That's the cheapest thing. There's a few things that's maybe $15 and $20, and there's some mugs and stuff that are $15. But yeah, there's some low-end type things, and then some of the hats and shirts and stuff are a little more. But those, again, these are not being stored in my house or my place at all. These are simply print on demand type things. So if you order a shirt or a hat or a mug or whatever, they're printed and shipped to you directly. I don't have anything to do with it. And I happen to get a little bit of the sale. Most of that goes to the company that does the order fulfillment, honestly. So if you want to help me, that is a good way to do it. Keep in mind that the company that you order the product from gets most of the money. That doesn't come to me directly, which is totally fine, but it does help support the show. And, people like the sweatshirts and stickers and mouse pads and all kinds of stuff that are available. So that is one way to support the show if you want, and just know that is available, as well as Subscribestar and Substack. So the links are up there in the corner in the black box, Substack and Subscribestar and the shop. So thank you guys for being here tonight. I really appreciate your time, and let's see what you guys are saying over on in the chat on Rumble. We've got a few posts here from Turtle Morrow, says hello, and from Nate. YouTube censors the chat so badly now they moved over to Rumble. Okay. Notice how the pyramid story came out just as the JFK files were released, showing that the you-know-whos killed JFK. Yeah, I did notice that. You're right. Would not let me say this or anything like it on YouTube. Interesting. AI is going to censor everything. And then Emily posted the links for Band and Subscribestar and the store over in the chat on YouTube as well as Rumble. So thank you, Emily, for posting that. She says the sweatshirts are the best. So comfy. Oh, thanks. Yeah, I know you said you bought one before, and I'm glad you like it. That's awesome. Let's see here. And then Band, we didn't really talk about that. Let me show you that. If I noticed somebody was asking about Band in the chat earlier. Let's see here. Band is right here. So, yeah, it's band.us. Band.us / @the Diamond Report. @the Diamond Report is what it is. And that is our group. That's our group of people who are just friends in there and sharing information. That's all it is. So you can go in there and post, and you're not censored at all. Unless you're causing trouble, then you might get censored. But, for the most part, everybody in there is just, posting what they're researching, some interesting things that they come across. And maybe prayer requests, we get that. People who have maybe an illness or something going on with some family member or something, you can post things like that in there. And just know that is available for anybody who wants to partake in that. That's totally free, and it's on Band, and Band does not censor your posts. And I think that's really good because, unlike Facebook and some of the others who really get into censorship-happy type situations, Band does not censor you at all. I've never had anything ever censored on Band. And it's a really good platform, band.us, and there are other, many other groups on there and stuff, but that's where the Diamond Report group is. Again, totally free. And we're up to almost 100 people on there now. So help us get to 100. We're at 97 right now. So anyway, we're at band.us / @the Diamond Report. The link is posted there in chat from Miss Emily. She put it in there for us. Let's see what you guys are saying in chat. True Nature says, I was hoping you would cover this King Charles story, Doug. Yeah, I tried to. I think it's interesting. I don't really necessarily think that Trump is going to go sell us out to King Charles, but if he does, I will be one of the first people to be yelling foul, crying foul on this, because we know that the founding fathers would absolutely be rolling over in their graves with anything like that connects the United States directly to the British royal crown, because that is where this country was founded, was getting away from that. Now, yes, we all know about how we didn't really totally get out from the shadow of the Brits, and we've got the whole legal system, the whole bar system that's part of that. I understand that, but for the most part, they are not really calling the shots. And to put King Charles back in charge of the U.S., or the King of England back in charge of the U.S., would not be a good thing. So I will be one of the first people out there yelling about that if it does happen. Hopefully it won't, though, because we don't really know. Again, based on that article, we don't know how true that is. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Banning cell phones at this point in time would throw us back into the 1800s, wouldn't it? Susan says, yeah, there was an article about that earlier. I think that was mostly about banning school use of cell phones. So no using of cell phones while you're in school. I think it's what that article was about, and that was RFK Jr. Thing. And, I don't know that kids really necessarily need to be using their phones while they're in school. Most schools do allow it, just depending on the school, I guess, but at least allow you to have the phone if you're the kid. Maybe keep the phone in your backpack and you can get it out in between classes or whatever. That does happen. So I don't know. But yeah, it's obviously not good from a health standpoint. But the moment the kids are walking out of school, that's the first thing they're going to grab. Always. So the next Diamond Report will be, let's see here. Week from tonight would be the 30th. So March 30th at 10 p.m. Central Time. That will be the next show. Got one more video tonight if you want to stick around. We're running long tonight, aren't we? Got one more video. It's pretty interesting, and it's about the Statue of Liberty, but they're calling it the Statue of Lucifer, which I think is pretty interesting and very accurate, actually. So let's watch that. It's called France Wants Its Statue Back. Maybe they should have it back. I don't know. Anyway, hope you guys have a great week coming up this week. Feel free to stay in touch. You can do that through Band, obviously. That's the best way. Or you can do that by leaving comments on any of the videos. I try and read those. There's not really very many of them, but I try and read those and respond as appropriate there. So, again, thanks for being here tonight and spending your time with me. I really appreciate it. And keep Jesus front and center in your life. So that's the best piece of advice I can give you, other than making sure that you are indeed part of his family. So keep Jesus front and center and keep your family close as well. And we just don't know week to week what's going to happen. And we've seen all the articles this week about war and all this stuff. And hopefully that won't happen. But I think that a third world war, unfortunately, it seems to be in the cards for the end times. And I think we are in the end times. I've tried to prove that by talking about that stuff during the show and every show that I do. It seems to me like it's very obvious, and you see week to week to week how things really are pointing in that direction. So we will investigate that more as we go, and I'll do some separate videos here and there as I can. And hope you guys have a blessed week, though, and feel free to stay in touch if you want. In the meantime, hold on, and we'll watch France Wants Its Statue of Lucifer Back. Love you guys. Talk to you guys next week.
The French are stirring the pot and demanding the Statue of Liberty back. A center-left French MEP, Raphael Glucksmann, is throwing a tantrum, claiming America's gone rogue under Trump, siding with tyrants and torching the values that made Lady Liberty a gift worth giving in 1886. Glucksmann says, "We gave it to you as a gift, but apparently you despise it, so it'll be just fine here at home." Of course, the statue of Lady Liberty has come to represent everything the Trump administration is fighting for, and New York City already lost the Twin Towers. Lady Liberty is a bridge too far.
Video cameras caught trucks arriving at the World Trade Center from about August 23rd until every night until about September 2nd, September 3rd. And the trucks were arriving at about 3 o'clock in the morning when everybody else had left the building, including the janitorial trucks. And the trucks were leaving at 5 a.m. right before the AAA personalities of Wall Street got to work to start their day. Something was brought into that building that would help with the detonation. There may have been work done on the detonation before. It may have been going on for months, but whatever they needed at the very end, they came and brought in that 10-day period. That's what we think happened. The airplane hijackings were a cover for the controlled demolition, which was undertaken by a small group of people, probably just 4 or 5 people. We are never going to know who they are, and it's not worth looking for them. And in August of 2001, I was told to stay out of New York City because the attack was considered imminent. We expected mass casualties and a possible miniature thermonuclear strike, a bomb. However, I want to be very clear. The attack was always defined as airplane hijackings and a strike on the World Trade Center.
It isn't a symbol of globalism to the majority of Americans, as Glucksmann appears to have twisted its meaning in his tiny Trump derangement syndrome brain. But Glucksmann has raised a nagging question. The Statue of Liberty was designed by French Freemason Auguste Bartholdi and gifted in 1884. Perched atop a star fort bathed in the glow of the moon and stars, stands the Statue of Liberty, a monument dripping with occult fingerprints. That torch blazing in her hand, as intended by its creator, it's no beacon of freedom to him. It's the flame of forbidden knowledge handed down by Lucifer himself to keep his cult alive and kicking. Her left foot shackled tight, that wasn't a symbol of slavery to Bartholdi. It was a silent nod to the Creator's wrath, chaining those fallen angels in hell for spawning their freakish human-angel hybrids. From day one, there was a spiritual battle over this new Atlantis. Many powerful families hid in the shadows, intending on America being Satan's playground. And when those European immigrants rolled in, bleary-eyed and hopeful, the first thing staring them down was this towering idol, Lucifer and Drag, the whore of Babylon, welcoming them to the land of the devil's colony. The French didn't just hand us a statue, they slipped us a coded relic of their revolutionary occultism. So yeah, Glucksman, as much as the statue has come to represent precisely what we are now fighting for, its original sentiment was as perverse as the globalist hellhole you currently shoot your mouth from. John Bound reporting for InfoWars.